Hey, everybody. Welcome into episode 121 of the Plastic Posse. We're glad you're joining us for another podcast about scale modeling, which is the passion that we all share together. The Posse is, of course, brought to you by Micro World Games, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive. And also to all of you, all of our Patreon supporters, a big old yeehaw and thank you for making all of this possible. We really appreciate each one of you and your support in our community, and also being able to financially support us to bring this podcast to you every 2 weeks. I've got with me today Mr. Grant Mayberry. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm doing good, sir. Living the dream right now and just working on some stuff, and that's about it.
Awesome. And then I've got Jensen Taylor's little brother, who's half of his size, little Ralphie Taylor, I think. How you doing, Jensen?
No, I'm doing really good. The weather's really cold because I was explaining last episode how scorching it was here. But yeah, weather's cold. The mind is in modeling mode, which is really good. So that's been vanished for a while. Talk a little bit later about stuff I've been working on. But yeah, everything's good here. I can assure you it is indeed me, even though I have lost as much as my mum weighs now in weight this year. I assure you it is me.
That chair just sort of swallows you now. You know, you're just that chair that you always sit in when we record this anyway. Coming from the center of the travel universe, Mr. John Bonani, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's good to be home another weekend and making progress on models. So super excited to get into the discussion topics today.
And TJ could not join us today. And when we thought, well, who could maybe step in and fill those shoes, we thought, wait, none other than his arch nemesis, Aaron Kuck. Aaron, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on and honoring my contract stipulations, which expressly prohibit me and TJ from being on the same podcast at the same time. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let's get rolling. Let's start with Jensen. You know, what have you been up to? You purchased anything lately, and how's the bench been?
Well, so funny you ask, because guys can see behind me there is two boxes. I was talking with JB the other night about upcoming SMC projects and the stuff we're trying to nail down, and it's something I want to talk about later, is I really try to reevaluate what time I have and what is realistically achievable in that time. And I do want to do more aircraft, like constantly. I've got armor and AFVs and stuff on the bench, but in my mind, I've got aircraft. So I bought a couple of Edward 172 aircraft. I bought the new 172nd Mustangs, the Tales of Iwo Jima box set. Absolutely incredible. Like, I've just gone through the boxes. Really, really pretty. Amazing molds, plastic, like, just looks amazing. And the amount of schemes you get in the box, I get why people buy so many Overtrees now. And I got the little BF-109 G10 Royal Class set because, again, the schemes in that box and you get a nice bit of resin extras. And again, the 172nd, but they have the quality of the 148th in detail, like rivets, and just because it's smaller, they don't compromise with the detail you get in the box. So I'm going to try and get all of them done. There's two in each box. I really want to try and get them all done because the 172nd, they are manageable. I know my aircraft game is better than my armor game, as well as some other projects. But yeah, that's really what I'm trying to focus on. They arrive today. I'm going to really try and work on some good natural metal finishes in that scale. That's going to be a challenge. I'm very much looking forward to it. We've got the M1008 on the go still. JB showed a picture the other day. Daniel Zamabide, he's worked on his. He posted a picture of the door interiors, and it's like, holy crap, that's really good. So that's motivated me even more to get on with mine. I've got some mini art figures to go with that build, which they're all right. The mini art figures, typical mini art figures, so they need a bit of work, but the poses are really good. That's something mini art always does really well. So yeah, stuff is moving along. I haven't not been doing anything. It's just moving along a little bit slower than I would really like.
No, it's good to hear that you're moving. And yeah, Daniel Zamarbide, he just, man, you put a paintbrush in that guy's hand and he is just amazing. And we'll talk about the trucks a little bit more, but good to hear that you're moving on things. And I'm excited to see where those aircraft kits take you. Let's stick with the J's. JB, what you been up to? You picked up anything new, and how's the bench?
Yeah, the mailman has been very kind to me. I had Andy's Hobby Headquarters, their Das Work Super Blitz Jagd Panther show up, so I'm super excited for that. I know, Grant, I think you got one, and it looks awesome. I got it during his like BOGO kind of thing, buy one, get one 40% off. And one's going up to Mr. Mark Bradley. So maybe that'll be a buddy build in the winter time frame, but it's a really nice kit. I mean, it's a slammer and they are cranking them out. And I just really appreciate, that subject with that price tag. So it's awesome. Highly recommended to those that are looking for a Yog Panther. It's a G2, so it's the later version, but there's a ton of awesome schemes, whether it's hard edge or soft. Outside of that, I got another box this time. I've been waiting for it for a while, and I'm really excited to share the RT diorama box that had, our dear good friend Martin Kovac's and it goes by Night Shift on YouTube, his no parking facade. It's really freaking well done. It's a bigger box than I expected, but there's a beautiful plaster facade. There's a ton of 3D printed accessories, whether it's the door, window frames, conduit, all that stuff. There's printed placards for behind the windows. And then there's a really good little how-to booklet. Obviously, there's the YouTube video that you can follow along, but it's nice to have a how-to booklet as well. So that was in the box. And then I also got his little tree, RT Diorama's little tree that's 3D printed. Beautiful little pine tree. And then I got 2 sets of the pine burrow like foliage to put on a vehicle, and then the oak leaves as well, all of which are super well done. Highly recommended. Shipping wasn't that bad. So for our listeners, that was 5 products, 1 big one and 4 little ones. And it cost me $22 to ship from Germany to my place in Colorado, which I actually don't think is that bad, especially when you see the markup of RT stuff in the States. If you're going with a smaller order, like if you could probably get 1 building set for $22 shipped, that's not that bad of a deal. And shipping's pretty fast once it gets to you, once it gets on the road, maybe about a week. I think mine was held up at the coast for a little bit, but regardless, it's a good value to go direct to RT, and they're super nice folks too. We had Tom on, and his dad runs a great business. And the last package, I know I'm going long on what I bought, but Alpine Miniatures released the 2 British tankers. Calvin Tan painted the box art, beautiful pieces. They are released free shipping from Alpine. If basically you buy 2 figures and it's free shipping. And Taesung was great. I actually got those before the official drop date. I think he was shipping stuff out for those who pre-ordered it, and they're beautiful figures. And Calvin Tan's work is super inspiring on the box art, so it's no brainer. So that's what I bought. Now on the bench, I pivoted from the 251. I got the Panzer Rex book that talks about the subject with the Calliope launcher, the T-34 launcher in the bed of the 251. And there is a metric crap ton of work to do to make the kit accurate to what the vehicle was. It wasn't simply, they're going to take out the interior and then they just slap it in with a mounting system that was, generic. No, everyone's bespoke. So they welded these giant I-beams in there. There's a fire control system. And then they they torch cut the escape area where the driver typically sits. So regardless of how much, just the sheer amount of work needed to do that subject right is just not enough time for SMC. And instead of stressing about it, I actually bought a new photo etch set that has the entire superstructure in photo etch. So it's a longer term project. I'm happy about that because as I thought about cutting the Dragon kit, I was like, man, these armor plates look too thick. So went with the photo etch. I'm going to take time when it gets here and really do it right for next year's project. Maybe make it to an AMPS 2026 subject. But with that, I've pivoted. Good progress on the M1008 since the last time we talked. It's painted. I really got it this weekend. I'm probably going to start working on oils on it because I painted it in real colors. Did a little bit of sanding on it, which I actually really like because it kind of toned down and made the scheme look really worn, which is the finish I'm going for. And then also really what's on the bench now is Panther 131. So my pivot from the 251 Calliope is to the Panther. For those that don't know, Panther 131 was part of Comp Group of Piper's first SS that went into, the northern region of the Battle of the Bulge, Stavelot, Stoumont, and it essentially turned right out of L'Église and went to Chenot to go over another bridge. And it was knocked out by P-47s. And I've been to that spot twice. I took some of the folks, I took Jensen there last year, and it's just a really iconic area. There's a bunker still there that Piper jumped into during the air raid. And Panther 131, the iron gate on the farm that's in front of the vehicle is actually still there today. So it's an amazing type of experience to go to that spot. And I had this project lined up for a while, and it's actually it's been started in earnest for over a year. And I was like, you know what? This is the project. So I'm going to get the interior interior buttoned up today. I'm going to paint it. It's it's blown up, obviously, inside because it took a rocket round. And so the interior is going to be rusty, dark. I'm not too concerned because you're just going to have little hatches to look through. And then the vehicle itself sat on the side of the road and was target practice for an anti-aircraft unit that had a Bofors nearby. So they hit the hull. And what's interesting is there's a series of photographs from almost when the vehicle was destroyed by P-47s to after the war when it was photographed from all sides, and you can see it's been pretty stripped. I want to do the configuration somewhere in the middle where there's a great picture. It's really fuzzy, but there's the anti-aircraft crew pointing to the holes on the hull, but there's no marks on the turret. So what I really want to do is the 2 hits on the hull, no marks on the turret, and then I'll do the burnt out right side because that was the internal fire that happened from the P-47. So I'm doing that because I really love the disc scheme, and I also love the shit all over the vehicle. And as the war went on, it started to get stripped. And yeah, it's cool, but I just like the clutteredness of the outside of the Panther. So long story short, Panther 131, I'll probably have a figure or 2 next to it, and that'll be my AFE entry for Scale Model Challenge. And I'm pretty confident I can get this one done. So I took a lot of time there. I'm going to yield the floor back, Scott.
No, that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And you've shared some of those photos with me. I think it's going to be a great, great subject. And obviously, where you've been there before, that kind of makes it more personal, which is always really cool. Well, Aaron, what have you been up to? I know you've been pretty busy with life, but what have you purchased anything lately and any activity on the bench?
Well, luckily for you, for timing of the show, the amount of time JB took, I will, not take because I don't have that much going on hobby-wise right now. No, it's still an interesting life I lead right now, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel for me. So I've just been busy with that, busy with work lately. I do have the AK truck sitting on my bench, and I did start gluing some parts together on that about a week ago. It was the first time I had a chance to sit down and glue some of the chassis together. And I took everyone's advice and started on, I think, step 2 or 3 before you go back and add in some of the drivetrain stuff. So and that definitely seems to help out. But it looks like a really cool kit, and I'm anxious to get cracking at it. It's probably what I'm going to do the rest of the day today after we get done talking. So other than that, no, it's been kind of a drought, I guess you'd say, since I finished the triple P 48 scale group build last fall. It was really the last time I sat down and had the time and energy or motivation to build. So ironically, since then, I've been to a whole bunch of model shows all over the place, some with a bunch of you guys, and had a blast and definitely was inspired, but just haven't been able to execute back at the bench. So hopefully that'll come soon. The AK truck is definitely one that sparks my interest, and I've kind of switched my topic, which we'll talk about a little bit with it a few times, but I think I finally settled on something. So I got some decals in the mail the other day for it that I think will complete it. And that's it. That's what I'm doing.
No, I look forward to that. Yeah, that's a posse we're going to get you building one way or another if we have to send you a kit and guilt you into it.
Well, you're sending Ian back my way, so that's...
Yeah. So Aaron, you bring up a good point. I mean, 2025, I think, has been rough for all of us. I know I've certainly struggled. I haven't finished anything since the beginning of the year, to be honest. I got a lot of shit in progress, but I don't think you're alone there. I think we all feel that. And for what we thought was going to be a great year, it's actually been a really tough year for the hobby, for at least me. I think, Jensen, you're in the same boat. Grant, you've been working on your pod for a while, and Scott certainly hasn't completed anything for about a decade. So, but no, I think bottom line is, Aaron, you're not alone there, and I'm sure some else there too. It's been a tough year for that.
Yeah,
that's right, Aaron. How does that make you feel?
Now, if TJ was here, he'd say, "Shut the hell up, get to the bench," and I don't want to hear any
build a
talking.
model. Yeah.
Or when you said when I skipped to step 2, I was going to say TJ would be, "Oh, that's throw it in the trash for you."
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Hence the reason why I put in the contract he's not allowed to be here at the same time as me. So.
All right, let's go to California. Grant, how you doing, my friend? And what have you been up to? What have you purchased?
Again, I'm like the rest of you. I've really not done this much this year too, Aaron. It's been a rough year physically, mentally for me, and modeling definitely. So it don't feel alone. What have I purchased? I did get the new TACOM M1 Super Sherman, the brand new Israeli one, in the mail. It's a great kit. Definitely going with a different set of tracks on it because their tracks seem to be a little bit crazy. They have a lot of parts to their tracks, so I think foil tracks are definitely in the future. Working on the truck like this, but we'll talk about that later. I've been working on trying to find a secondary project for SMC. I think I have one now. So the pod is almost done. It's just been and like everything else, and I will say this, I got it done and I found out someone is now doing a 3D print of the whole thing. So you could buy a 3D print now of the thing I just spent the year building. It happens. It's what it is. That's the hobby. The guy that does it is a fantastic guy. He's a wonderful guy. I've bought prints from him before and does great work. So no disrespect or hardness on that, but it's just one of those things. I've seen people in the back of the day rebuild a panther into a recovery panther. There we go. And as soon as they did that, they started popping up from like TACOM and everybody else. So it happens. It's just what it is. Other than that, I'm doing good. I'm getting a lot more model time done. Not getting as much done. I've got I got a whole lot that I've got started, but I just have not finished. I do have the Yog Panther, which is a beautiful kit, like JB said. I did get the RT set for it also, which came in the mail with some stuff from RT. So they have a upgrade set for that vehicle. Actually, I think they have a couple of them, but I also got the branches for vehicles that goes on the vehicles also, along with the leaves. Their stuff is amazing. It really, really is. I cannot recommend their stuff enough. And I ordered direct from them too. And I got it. Shipping was like $21, just like JB. And it was here very fast, very good. I cannot recommend those guys enough. They just do some great work. Other than that, that's about it. I mean, I've been sending memes back and forth to Scott and, and just having a good time. So that's been what's going on.
Awesome. Well, to wrap things up, I've been waiting for my RT diorama order. I basically got just about the same thing that JB did, a couple differences. So waiting to see my order there. I'm really, really excited to see Martin's piece and just stoked to get that in my hands. And also those pine boughs, try and incorporate those into my SMC project, my E25. I think I've cornered the market on E25 aftermarket. I think I bought it all. So I own it, multiple kits and all the aftermarket you can eat. So that's really what I've been focusing on other than that. And what's been encouraging for me is it's the 26th of July as we're recording this. And I've literally been to the bench every single day in July. It's been great. I've been really disciplined. I've set a schedule and really been sticking to it, just about to primer. So my goal of painting by the end of primer on it by the end of July, I think I'm going to make it. I'm really close. This is a piece that's required. I've done more construction, correction, aftermarket implementation, kit bashing than I've ever done on a project before. We'll see if that shows in the final product. But yeah, it's been really quite a project, and it's been good to get sort of just dive back into the bench and just really hit it hard and consistent. And I've enjoyed it. So, so far, so good. I think things are moving along and I'm pretty satisfied. Anyway, well, it's good to hear everybody's kind of been active and busy. And like you guys have talked about previous to that, I think 2025 has been a challenge for all of us. And it's good to have everybody, snipping glue and making sanding dust again. So that's really, really good. Well, I want to take a little bit of time and send it over to John for a discussion on something that happened this week.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I think we just want to take time right now to recognize basically probably the greatest influence in the hobby passed away this past week. And Tamiya Shinsaku-san passed away earlier in the week. And there was an article that came out in the New York Times, and I'd love to just discuss it. And for those who haven't read it, it's actually really well written. And it's interesting that Times picked this up. Mr. Tamiya, frequently named, goes by and kind of the grandfather of the plastic hobby that we all know and love. It's an article written that really presents a lot of things that I didn't know, specifically around kind of his history and family and what he did for the hobby and how he went about it. And there's just some really unique stories in that. And I'd love to just take some time to kind of talk through it and share those stories. And also I'd like to ask our listeners, we'll share this on our page, but like, what was your first experience with Tamiya? Because I think we all have very fond memories of it. And, with that, Mr. Tamiya was born in essentially right in he was 11 when World War II was in its, in the really big throes of it. And he was born in 1934. Father owned a woodworking, a lumber business, and he picked up scale modeling based on the influence of a B-29 flying over during the Second World War, which is pretty astounding. The article goes on to share more about him and his life. And, I'll just go around the room. Maybe we can talk about some of the points from that article that found interesting. I'll start where, again, he was born in 1934. He started Tamiya soon after, in the early 1960s, I should say. And it's just an amazing story that goes through how he came to develop the company that we all know and love today. And maybe with that, I'll kick it over to Grant, because you shared this article online. But what are some of the things that stuck out to you in that article that you didn't know and are really grateful for?
Well, yeah, it's a fantastic article. It's like you said, the interesting stuff to me was his younger years. We didn't know much about that. I didn't know about the woodworking. That's how he got inspiration. I didn't put the World War II, his age in World War II. He was alive, like you said, at 11 when the bombs were dropped. I mean, those are memories that will stay with you forever. I mean, stuff like that. The thing that I think that stuck out to me the most is that Shinsaku, the hobby show they have there in Japan every year, the big, huge one, it's a couple days long. Each day is basically separated. Manufacturers, the public can come, designers can come on certain days. But on one day is specifically set aside for school children in Japan. The images they write about says him standing in front of the door, greeting, passing out stuff, and just seeing his smile with the younger generation as they came in just hit me hard. It was just such a great image of the man. And we all have our first Tamiya kit, and we all have our first thing. But I think for the New York Post to pick this up shows you how much of a influence he is on the world. Not just models kits. Tamiya is also known for the best RC parts. RC cars are out there. Just stuff like that I found extremely, extremely interesting and fun to read. It was a nice article to cap it with. I think the end of the week with a rough week we went on, and it was just kind of very important. And I was glad they posted it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the stories that sticks out to me, and it's really funny at the time. We live in an internet age where anything is at our fingertips. Information from the most esoteric vehicle in the world to the latest technology that's being employed on the battlefield. We have access to it, and we can build models around that information. But back in the day when Mr. Tamiya started Tamiya, you're in Japan, there's no internet. How the hell are you going to find information on a Warsaw Pact vehicle? Well, for him, it was going to the Soviet Union's embassy in Tokyo and asking for more information. And I think that's just crazy awesome for that matter. And, with that action, it got the attention of the Japanese security bureau that put him under surveillance for a little bit of time. I think probably they're like, what the heck is this guy thinking? Why does he want to know so much intricate details about foreign, adversaries' armored vehicles? And it's just really interesting. And then it talks about how after the 6-Day War, he went to Israel and looked at the captured vehicles there that the Israelis got from, probably likely from Syria, the Egyptians. And that's probably the impetus of the T-62. He probably saw one at that museum, and he's like, okay, cool. Well, since this is one of the vehicles that was captured during the 6-Day War, this is what I'm going to make. So it's just really interesting to see that. I think, Aaron, I'll kick it over to you. You collect Tamiya catalogs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I do. I've started just kind of a hobby of collecting some of the Tamiya catalogs, or Tamiya as I usually say it. I think they started them back in the late 60s or early 70s and issued them every year since then, with the exception of sometime in the early 2000s. They had the bright idea of issuing it on a CD-ROM or something, and never did it in print that one year. It's just kind of interesting, and I was lucky enough to find a whole bunch recently at some of the shows for a really good price, and it's more nostalgia than anything else. I mean, I remember, I think Tamiya is one of the first memories of model kits I have. I got one of the old tool, obviously M3 Stewarts, and it was packaged with one of the first U.S. infantry sets and a sandbag set and a brick wall set, and the picture of all that's on the box, and then to I don't know, like 9 or 10-year-old me, it was like the coolest thing in the world. And those were the kits that when I went into the hobby shop, I was dreaming about. And I think my first memory of Tamiya kits was at a place called Norwood Hobby in Beaver Creek, Ohio. But really all my memories are Smitty's Hobbies, which was in Kettering, that has closed down recently. But I know that he at the hobby shop there gave me some of those Tamiya catalogs, I think, to take pity on me as I went in there and dreamed about all the kits. And I looked through those catalogs for hours and hours. So, picking them back up again as an adult, was just kind of a cool thing. And I actually just went to my bookshelf and pulled off a book. And the New York Times article kind of inspired me to make me finally read this book I've had sitting on my bookshelf for years called Master Modeler Creating the Tamiya Style. And it's actually written by Mr. Tamiya. I think he wrote it back in 97 in Japanese. It was translated in 2001 into English, but it's really his kind of autobiography, I guess, about not just himself, but the company. And I would say it's probably like the Tamiya 801 course for what you read in the New York Times article. But just the fact that this made New York Times to me is like the coolest thing. And I think you guys touched on that already, but just the impact that this man and his company has had on the hobby is really impressive. And the fact that you're in a major news outlet like the New York Times is an accomplishment, I think, for somebody that many would say makes, quote, toys, unquote. So it's a cool thing. It's sad the man was 90 years old, so I think he had a pretty good run. So I think we can celebrate his life for that. And I have every confidence that Tamiya, the company, will continue his legacy. It doesn't seem like the sort of company that would lose track of their culture and the dream that, they had all along. So I think we got many more great kits to come, and whether it be plastic kits or you touched on RC kits too, because that hit me at the right time in my life. I went straight from model kits by Tamiya to, when I was an early teenager, RC kits by Tamiya. So I've definitely had lots of Tamiya in my past. So even wearing a Tamiya shirt here today for this. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Tamiya, the game changer. We talked about it before we were recording. There are some model kits that Tamiya released that I know of that really kind of set the benchmark for what we know today in terms of quality and standard. One of them that sticks out was, I'm pretty sure it was the Tamiya Zero in 1973 that kind of set the bar for 48 scale injection molded aircraft. Just not only the accuracy, but the fit, and then the recessed panel lines, and just really level set on, hey, this is how it's done. And then from an armor perspective, Tamiya's Panther A, we'll give that one a pass. We're gonna skip that. We're gonna skip that movie, just like Jurassic Park 3. We don't talk about Jurassic Park 3. We go on. We think of 1 and 2. So we, in terms of Tamiya's armor, what sticks out to me is the 1989 release of the Tiger 1. I think that really set the benchmark again in standard. Now you'll have the colloquial rivet counter go, well, the turret's asymmetric. I'm like, you can't notice it. I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyway, that's Tamiya. And I know, Scott, I'll turn it over to you. What stuck out to you in terms of scale and subject that kind of revolutionized a certain genre that's become really popular these days, especially with Qatari?
Thanks, John. The thing that really stuck out to me in the article was the mayor of Shizuoka. Grant mentioned the yearly show, which has become truly one of the world's largest events, and the mayor of Shizuoka, giving tribute to this man and his passion, saying, he made our town the center of this hobby universe. And, you look at the contributions that a single man can make with his passion and his dedication. And to get back to your question, John, to me, it just set the bar and then would come back years later and they would set the bar again. You mentioned the Tamiya Zero, which I think really, in your words, kind of was a shot across the bow to the aircraft industry. And then years later, when they released the 32nd scale Zero, I remember when that kit came out and I bought it and I was just like awestruck. I mean, it was just raising the bar of the entire industry. And you saw that again and again. My first Tamiya kit I ever bought was the Merkava 1. And I remember I got it home and I opened the box. It just redefined my expectation for decades of what to expect from kits. And then they did it again when they literally single-handedly brought back 148 scale armor. And now they have well over 100 kits in that line. It's a world standard. You read about, Japanese modelers can pick those up for, lunch money and redefine the genre there. And then it wasn't just his kits. It was TamiyaCon. As a younger man, that was my dream, was to, watching the Brian Kreiners of the world and all these people that got to go compete and go meet Mr. Tamiya. I was starry-eyed. That was always sort of my dream. And then, Tamiya Cement and Tamiya Tools. And, this was a man whose passion impacted every one of us. He has made my hobby experience better in every way and allowed me to dream and to accomplish more than I probably ever would have if it wouldn't have been for his passion and his dedication to the craft and to the hobby. And I mean, in many ways, I don't want to get too dramatic here, but in many ways, what we're doing here right now is we have this podcast about this hobby, and it's fueled by the passion for the hobby. And there is a massive piece of that you can trace back to Mr. Tamiya. And I don't know anything else that I could say that's more of a tribute to him. I just, obviously, sympathy and love and prayers to the family of this man who changed the world for so many people and allowed his passion to be shared with all of us.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly left a mark and will continue to. With that, listeners, share your personal story about Tamiya. We'll post up, maybe I'll start a thread and if, share your first Tamiya kit or share your first memory of Tamiya. I think it'd be really great because it's certainly, if you haven't built a Tamiya kit, I don't know if you're a scale modeler. I'll just throw that out there. I think, and if you haven't, then you certainly have been torturing yourself for the last, X number of years you've been scale modeling. So with that, please feel free to share on the post we'll make. And we'd love to hear from you.
So, all right, guys, that was a great discussion, a real quick discussion, and I can't wait to see some of the replies back in those posts. So now we're going to move over to models from the Plastic Posse group that caught our eye. And we're going to start off with our special guest star today, Aaron. You're up.
It's the best part of being the guest star on this is I get to go first and don't have anyone else steal my my one I'm looking at. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say two. One I think is one we kind of were talking about before we started recording, or at least Scott, I think you mentioned, but Dustin Diaz's AK truck, the Chevy truck, is pretty awesome, and maybe we can touch on it more when we get into talking about trucks. But it caught my eye, and it also was one of the ideas I had to then cross off my list of painting it up like an old fire truck because he did. So never mind on that idea. But that one was great. But one of the other ones that really caught my eye, and I'll try to do the name justice, but it's Florian Kuhnke, I think it is. And it's a Machine and Krieger Nutcracker. And it's just seems to be very well done, very heavily weathered and lots of chip paint on it, and just gives the essence of the Machine and Krieger universe, I think, gives the right kind of vibe. And I was looking at some of these pictures and having done that kit myself, there's a lot of canvas on that. It's a pretty big kit. It's about the size of a typical shoebox, I think. And so there's a lot there to paint and weather. And I really liked how it was done. So
I like that choice. It isn't a typical Machine and Krieger. Like, it's a little bit unique and personal. His vision that he pulled off with it, I really like it. It's a nice kit.
Yeah, he really did a great job on that. That was one of mine. Also, let's go over to Jensen. What about you?
So I've seen this guy's work on the Facebook page quite a lot, and I've not chosen it for some reason. But then recently there was a post in the past couple of days, and I was just like, okay, this is the time to do it. It's Jeff Furzweifel, let's try that again. Jeff Furzweifel. Apologize if I pronounce that wrong. Currently working on a 1/16th Easy 8 turret, but it's not really just the turret I want to draw attention to. It's all the stowage that's on the side of it, which he has hand sculpted himself, which is just it's so natural looking. The folds and the creases in all the soft stowage, the bags and the sacks and stuff. I also want to point out it's hand sculpted stowage, but it will be available to buy from Steel Pot Studios eventually. I don't know if it's available now, but it will be. It's stunning. And now he's got it all on the turret. The turret's looking more weathered and just lived in. One thing that drew my attention was he's got the 50 cal on there and the 30 cal. He's got the spent ammunition rounds on the turret roof. They're nice and shiny, so your eye gets drawn to them. The machine guns have such a nice worn metal finish. It doesn't look like it's just been buffed with some graphite. It just looks like worn metal, and it's quite a hard finish to achieve correctly. And he's got like grease stains, oil stains, worn down paint stains, like where olive drab gets wants that buffed dark color. It's just is like the turret itself can just be a model alone, and he does amazing work. He sculpts figures, he sculpts stowage. He does so much stuff from nothing. Yeah, just absolutely outstanding. And I thought it was time to draw attention to his marvelous work.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the stowage, like you said, is amazing. Just amazing. The machine gun colors are spot on. I mean, just so realistic. It's just an amazing build and just a fantastic job. I don't know why we haven't talked about him before. Jeez, just great work.
He was at Amps. He was selling that stowage at Amps. I bought a set of 16 scale stuff. And I bought 2 sets of the 35th scale he did, which was gorgeous. And he sold out awesome stuff. So he used to be a pattern maker for, I think it was Black Box back in the 90s. And then he worked at Squadron as their master modeler. And he's since gone and kind of been Steel Pot Studios doing his own gig. So we'll have to have him on. He's got a rich history in the business. I know he has connections to Verlinden, I believe. So we'll have to have him on to talk. He's a super nice guy, and he's got really nice looking dogs too. A couple Germans.
Is he the gentleman down in Texas? Is he still in Texas? Is that who I'm thinking?
I think he's in the South somewhere. I'll be honest. I don't know. But yeah, we'll have him on. We'll have him on.
Yeah, we should have him.
Yeah, we'll ask him. His what drew my eye, I agree with everything you guys have said, but the stowage items in particular, his use of color from one bag to the other, and then highlighting the stitching on each individual bag a little bit differently, the markings on it. He's really spent some time, and his blending work is tremendous. It's really attractive.
Really well done. All right, so let's move on to JB.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go with a unique subject that I love and you don't see many of. It's Robert Halax, Rhino from Tac-On. I don't think the post was explicitly about sharing his work. It was more about judging criterias, and we all know IPMS is dumb when it comes to that. So, but his vehicle is super well done. I think it's a very underrepresented subject, and he nailed it. I think the colors look awesome. The figure configuration on it's great. Stowage painted very nicely. So, Robert, you did a great job. Really love it. Enter it. If they DQ it, they're idiots. So keep doing what you're doing. Love it.
Yeah, another great build. Scott.
Yeah, so here I go again. I'm going to be a broken record, but I should make Grant say his name here. But Sungjun Jong, I'm sure I'm not saying his name right, but I'm such a fan. He's done a 148 scale Italeri AB43 armored car. He's got it in kind of a primer red color with some really nice dust tones. And one thing I noticed is the dust on the wheels on the vehicle are a slightly different tone than the spare that's contained kind of up under the hole. And there's enough consistency that he just pulls it off. It just looks tremendous. He does great work. I think he said in the post that he had built this particular armored car back in 2021, but that kind of rich dark red with the dust tones, and it just looks fantastic. He's a great modeler.
Yeah, 100% agree. His stuff is unbelievable. He does such great work. And okay, I'm going to go with myself as the last. I selected Brett Avant. He did Logan Grimnar. If you don't know, he's one of the Space Marine leaders. He did this off the new Space Marine Wolf, Space Wolf set that came out from Games Workshop. Should be available, if not available now. Great color, great tones. Used P3 paints, all different kinds of other stuff. Just a really good set. The images I pulled, he's still working on the head of the figure. I'm sure he's done with that by now. But just a beautiful figure for that scale. The detail painting is amazing. The fur on the back is wonderful. Again, I want to thank everybody for putting their stuff on the page, and please keep posting your stuff. We'd love to see it. We'd love to review it. We'd love to look through it all, and just keep it up. So now we're going to move over to our first discussion question. I'm going to pass it over to JB on this one.
Yeah, this is a comment that I've had because I've recently remodeled my space, and I think Jensen can relate to this as well. I'm sure everybody can actually, where it's really talking about a workspace refresh that can really spur your modeling mojo. And I'll talk about my example. I posted a picture online, I don't know, 2 weeks ago when I was going through this effort, and there was just crap all over my room. And a cluttered space, at least for me, can really like influence my mojo. And I found that since I remodeled my space, and remodeling really means I took a wall and I went to IKEA and I'm like, I'm going to buy as many bookshelves as I can to fit on this wall. And thank you to Aaron, who's online right now. The Billy bookcase, him and Mark Bradley both have it. And I really like the look. They're tall, not too deep bookshelves, and you can buy glass glass doors, I should say, for the front of them. So I bought 3 of those from IKEA, 2 of which have glass windows or the glass doors, and it's just really opened up the space. It's taken, first off, it's allowed me to have all of my work and my friends' work displayed. So that's really cool. I'm super happy about that. That's inspiring alone. When you can just look over and see Sam Dwyer's King Tiger, Dan Brooker's Panther 2, Rick Lawler, the list goes on and on. And you get to see them and you're like, wow, okay, great. This is how he did it. Or it's just inspiring. And with that too, it's taken another bookshelf out. It's allowed me to put all my modeling books in one spot. It's given me the ability to have some flexibility and like white space where you can just set things, which can be dangerous. But the notion of this topic is like, now I walk into this space and it just feels so much more open. And with that openness, it's a sigh of relief. Like right now, I'm having a little bit of anxiety because I got a few boxes on the ground behind me. My desk is getting super cluttered. And before I start working after we're done recording, I'm going to take 15 minutes and clean up the bench, clean up the space, and really put things away and keep it well organized, because I find that organization and openness really spurs, like, I feel motivated to come in here. And with that, I'll pass it around the room for other individuals to talk about their workspace. And maybe I'll go to Jensen first because he's recently remodeled his, and talk about like what a space has effect on your mentality and honestly your physical well-being too. Like if you go into a really stressful space, I know it makes me like stressed out, and I'm like, I can't be in here. I got to go get some air, and you just feel like boxed in, a little claustrophobic. But with that, I'll kick it over to you, Jensen, to share your experience through this remodeling effort and maybe what it's done to your psyche in terms of getting the mojo back going.
Thank you. Yeah, it's doing this room. I know it's been a couple months now since I've done it, but it was one of those, it's a project since came back from Nats, and I was just like, right, the room needs a remodel, because it was, since the room was first put together, it was never finished. There was just parts of it. It wasn't done. Like the underside of the cabinet still had like voids and holes, and there were just gaps like at the back of the bench where it wasn't like sealed to the wall, and everything was just MDF, like all my shelves and my drawer units and cupboard fronts. It was all just bare MDF, and MDF stains like incredibly, even with water, it just stains and it looks horrible. And I'd come in here, even if the room was like immaculately tidy, I'd come in, I'd just be like, it looks like an unfinished room. And this is where I start getting really pragmatic and philosophical. But I'm just like, if my workroom can't even be finished, how can my models be finished? Which, it sounds stupid, but like, I just look around and I don't like being in here. I'll come in here and work, but I don't feel comfy in here. Because in my mind, I've always got that. It's just like, it's an undone room. It's not finished. So a couple of years went by, because I toyed with the idea for a long time. And I was just like, apparently painting MDF, you shouldn't really do it because it swells and warps. That's bollocks. I did it. It's fine. So decided, I was like, nah, it needs doing. This room needs a revamp, because I'm getting to the point where I walk past the room because I'm like, I'm not going in there. Don't want to be in there. Picked my colour scheme, which is quite a classy dark blue and white. It's really fresh, because the last room was all beiges, which is nice. It's warm, it's cozy, but it's not me. That was the previous tenant choice, my brother. But yeah, it was about 2 weeks' work. The desk was stained a really dark walnut. It was walnut. That was a tribute to Jeff. So I picked a really dark walnut colour. Really dark walnut, I love it. Like, I love dark woods anyway. So the bench is nice and dark. All my cupboard fronts are like a dark blue. I've got 2 walls that are dark blue. The rest is white. Everything else is white, because I want it to be light and fresh. I do have a really large window in this room, and it's north facing, which means get sun all day. So it's nice and bright. And granted, a bit like what JV was saying, at the minute I'm noticing stuff starting to creep in, getting a little bit cluttered again. And it's like, okay, catch that before it starts getting worse, because when this room was just finished and I did the final vacuum and it was pristine, I was like, I love being in this room. It makes me feel refreshed, motivated. I'm happy to be in here. I can relax. I want to get on with stuff and work. And everything's organized. Like, because it wasn't just like a matter of just painting some walls. Everything was stripped out. Everything was ripped out the cupboards. No, so I got rid of a lot of stuff I didn't need. Like, why am I holding on to this? I've had this for a few years. Get rid of it. Decluttering is a massive thing. It's like you declutter a room, you declutter your mind at the same time. It's wonderful. And this room was very much like that. But it needs a quick tidy, but holy moly, I love being in this room now. It's just, I think it's like a cleansing of the mind and soul when you have a refresh and a freshen up of everything, a declutter. Even just a change in colour of a room can make a massive difference. But yeah, it's done me wonders. I have no intention of decorating or revamping this room anytime soon. I just love it. It can be an expense or it can be cheap. That's completely up to you. But I was determined to get it done relatively quickly, and I think 2 weeks for me was pretty quick. The only thing I'd like to do is get wooden floor. I currently have carpet. That is another massive job because my units are bolted to the wall and sat on the floor. So that's a bit of a pain. But apart from that, it's not a big deal. When it comes to winter, I'll be thankful I've got carpet. Long story short, mentally, physically, well-being wise, this room refresh has helped beyond comprehension.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I'll go to Aaron, our special guest. I'll credit Aaron, which is few and far between. I tend to think, Aaron, you operate in a very clean space. So, like, I see your bookshelf behind you, your photo booth. I don't think we've ever seen a messy Aaron. Like, I'm sure that room serves as your happy place.
Yeah, this is definitely my happy place, and life changed for me a lot a couple years ago. And I went from a dark kind of, I wouldn't say dingy, but cozy basement workspace, but small, kind of cramped stuff, kind of crammed everywhere, wherever it would go. And the condo I'm living in now has kind of it's called a bonus room that is on the first floor, and it's become my kind of model room. And it gave me the ability to kind of expand a little bit and spread out. And so I have a workbench that, I had to go out and purchase to put in this space. It's actually a sit-stand desk, though I don't think I've ever actually moved it up to stand at it. It just feels more open. I now have natural light, which is probably the first time since I was 12 that I've built a model of natural light. I've got 2 huge windows looking out to the scenic view at the volleyball court across the way, at the bar across the way. So that's nice in the summer. But it's nice to have kind of a reset, I guess, a restart on the model space. And the bookshelves, the ones that I was telling John about, really have kind of helped for kind of the same reasons. I was able to put my built models somewhere other than just shoved up in a corner somewhere where I can't really look at them. They're in one of these Billy bookcases with the glass doors on it. And the cool thing about these bookcases is it's easy to buy extra shelving from IKEA. So I think it comes with, I don't know, probably your standard like 4 or 5 shelves. And I think I have 7 or 8 shelves in there because I typically build 48 scale armor. So I don't need that like 2 feet, 3 feet of space, it feels like, between the 2 shelves. I'm able to shove a few more shelves in there and get more models on display. And they also make a half width Billy bookcase, which I've bought a couple of those and use those for all my books. So just having that alone just makes it feel cleaner. I don't know what the right word is, but just more organized in my head, and which makes it easier to sit down and when the motivation strikes me to work on a model. I've got a chair in here too from IKEA that is like where I can sit, pull a book off the shelf and read and get some inspiration. That's kind of helped too. So yeah, it's definitely my happy space.
Hell yeah. Major inspiration for me. The Billy bookcases, dude, they're game changer. They really are.
And they're cheap too. I mean,
they're not
relatively.
bad,
yeah. I mean, from the perspective of what, a lot of bookcases cost. I mean, it's IKEA, you can get them in, I think, John, yours are black, mine are white. You get them like that. You can go with the glass doors, without the glass doors. You could actually buy glass shelving for them if you so choose, or just the regular wood shelves, extra shelves. There's just a lot of flexibility to them. I mean, probably the biggest challenge is finding them in stock, because I think they're definitely, at least around here, I had to kind of bounce between the 2 IKEA stores in the area around me, and to find them in stock when I needed them to put together what I wanted. But I mean, they're not expensive at all.
No, yeah, and with that, for our listeners, for context, I bought 3 of them. I got the dark walnut. Bradley has the black. Yeah. You have the white. 2 of them are glass doored, and 1 is open for the books. All 3 sets with the 2 sets of glass doors was $460 delivered to my front door. So I got a wall of bookcases They are over 6 feet tall. I think each is about 3 feet wide, and they fit perfectly along one of my walls here. I anchored them to the wall on the top. I would highly recommend that because they're so tall. And then during the assembly process, I used wood glue when I was tacking in like the wood kind of dowels. And even when I screwed stuff in, I put a little wood glue there. And I think we were talking in another group. As long as you could probably move IKEA stuff once or twice. If you assemble it and lock it in to a position that you're not going to move in a while, like it's some quality stuff. Like it looks really nice. It's super affordable. And Aaron, like you said, they're out of stock all the time. And what's interesting is I went to IKEA and I was like looking to buy them, and online it's like they're in stock. They're right here. And I'm like, I don't see them in Bay 14. So I went online and I'm literally in the store at 4:00 in the afternoon. And I'm like, oh, I can just buy them and they'll deliver them to my house tomorrow. So I bought them while I was standing in the aisle to try to find them. And I was like, oh, I can just buy them and they'll literally show up at 10 a.m. the next day. They showed up and they were on my porch. So it saved me lugging them from the store in my car into my home, where delivery guy put them on my front porch. And then my wife was kind enough to help me take them upstairs and assemble them in a few hours. So anyway, listeners, highly recommend the Billy bookcases from IKEA. I'll go over to Grant because your space, I would say, is a homey space. It's much warmer. It's got the prints and pictures on the wall. It's got the warm lighting, the warm tone on the wall for paint. Like, tell us about your space.
Yeah, my homie is the code word for small. I live in Southern California with my wife and my father-in-law, who we are helping out with. So I don't have a big room for myself or anything like that. So I'm me and my father-in-law have split his den, which is nice. It's a very nice area. So I love my little area. It's comfortable to me. It's a little crowded, of course, with a small area we are all like that. But I like it. I'm one of those other kind of people that likes to kind of compact, more square building area. Because if I want something and I need something, I want to be able to reach out and grab it instead of having to go look for somewhere else and stuff like that. That's a thing with me. The book cabinets, that's a definite idea that I need to get. I don't have good placement of my books, and I do have a cabinet that I keep my models and my friends' models in, which is a glass covered cabinet that I was gifted from somebody years ago. It's nice and stuff like that, but I need more space for that. I will definitely be looking at IKEA. That's for sure. But I like my area. I like to keep, like I said, I like to keep everything in a small general reach area. And that's just the way I am. To each their own, I guess, for that. I do not like clutter, even though my area is very cluttered right now. So I clean up my space pretty frequently. I go through and clean up and stuff like that. My biggest problem right now is Sprue Brothers, Burbank House of Hobbies, Andy's, B&A Hobbies having sales. That's my biggest problem right now. I've got boxes on the floor of just stuff that I just got to stop. That's my biggest problem right now. But, being clean and being productive is a two-way street. I'm sure we have people, and we all know people that have a big 6-foot bench and they work on a 3x4 inch area, and that huge bench, which is covered with paint, everything else. But, for me, this works. I do like looking at people's work areas because I get ideas from those, from where to place stuff. Jensen's idea, I never thought where Jensen places paints before right in front of his face above on strips was great. I love that. I stole that idea. There's stuff I stole from your work area, John, not literally. I've looked at your area in your room and I said, I like the way he did this and this. And then Scott, same way. I've seen pictures of your area and, JB or TJ's area. TJ's got a really nice area right now, by the way. That's, too bad he's not here for this. The big, huge American star on the wall, the green wall, the OD green wall. It's great. It's kind of cool. And the whole thing like that. But to me, this, a clean area is a good area, no matter if it's small or tall. I know, Mr. that I was in the military, so lots of times I didn't have a lot of space. So I think that's why a smaller space doesn't bother me. I remember being in Afghanistan and Iraq working on a 3-drawer chest, putting together models because on my downtime, or working in a cafeteria or something like that. So it doesn't bother me. This is just to me, it's my own. But, watching you guys go through these things is great. seeing, especially, like Jensen's complete room overhaul, watching that happen was kind of cool because you got to see so much different, such a change in everything. And same with you, JB. You're like, oh, these are my bookcases. And then you turn around and there's like a pile of stuff on the floor. For some reason, it tickled me. And it was just one of those things. It's just great. It's something like that. It's interesting to see, and it's fun. It's just what we have.
Scott, you put in like a 6-foot brand new shiny workbench last year. How much of that space are you using right now?
Every little bit of it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Another shout out to Josh Buck. But yeah, I went through this about a year ago. I'm a little behind you guys, but took the time to really. I was modeling on your typical cheap $30 table with the pressed wood and the laminate, the fake, wood wallpaper stuff. And it was old and everything was kind of twisted and warped, and bought a big piece of butcher block and built, with Josh's help, built this beautiful bench and put a whole bunch of supplemental light up under the shelves and really, really helped sort of make a purpose-built space. And it makes a huge difference, like you guys are saying. You guys are talking about IKEA. A few years ago, my wife does paper crafting and scrapbooking, and her room had become to the point like our model rooms get, where you couldn't even almost walk in the room. And so we went to IKEA a couple of times. Proof of how much I love my wife. I hate that place. It's so crowded, and it's a 2-hour commitment to get in and out of there, right? We went in there and designed everything together, cabinets and storage containers and desks and everything. And man, that's the best money we've ever spent. I mean, it really changed the game for her and her hobbies. And she has to go in there every day. She loves it. She's comfortable. She's productive. And it just makes a huge, huge difference in creating a space, like you've all alluded to, no matter how big it is or what the individual elements are. Having a space where you're comfortable and you can be productive is a game changer. It's everything, right? Yeah, I think beyond any shadow of a doubt, when I kind of went from a space that I had stuff that would work to a space that, I got my paints up on a rack that I built hanging on the wall, and I built the workbench. Now all of a sudden it isn't stuff that just works. It's stuff that is purposely designed and really helps fuel productivity and just being comfortable being there hours and hours at a time. Now I just need one of those comfy chairs like Jensen has, and I'll have the whole setup.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think I need to find out where Jensen got that chair, because that thing looks super comfortable.
It's not anymore. They're expensive. It's a Noble chairs chair.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like.
Well, you've lost a lot of padding. That's why.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, anywhere I sit, my hurts. and that's the thing, like a chair discussion. When I bought this chair is designed for the heavier man in mind. I'm not that anymore, so I'm kind of dwarfed by it.
Is it a gaming chair or is it a?
Yeah, it's Fallout
Noble?
themed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Noble. It's like the Fallout. It's just Fallout themed one. Yeah, Vault-Tec.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a nerd.
Yeah, as we talk about workspaces, some ring to mind. Obviously, Jeff Feller. He's got an awesome setup. I love the all wood veneered wall and his tools all in the same spot. It just feels good just looking at it. And hopefully one day I can appreciate that space in person. Another person, back when I used to live in Dayton, there was an individual, his name was Ed Harm, and he had a basement workshop, really well lit. But I found interesting is he had his air pressure lines plumbed to his bench, but the compressor was in the garage.
Wow.
And it was a big compressor tank, so you could leave it on and it would run like once, probably a week or depending on how well it retains the air, like it would barely kick on. And then what I really loved was on his bench, he had a vacuum system that he could flick on with a switch, and he basically just shovels all of this the dust and the scraping stuff to a little spot on his bench, and it just sucks it up into a central vac unit, typically that you see in wood shops.
That is genius.
That is amazing.
I was like, holy man, this is awesome. And then what was really nice is he had kitchen cabinetry around it as well. It almost felt like an industrial kitchen, but it was meant to be a workspace, and beautiful overhead fluorescent lights. but from a workspace perspective, it was super cool. And then another one that sticks out to me, and I don't think he uses it anymore, and it's a name I don't think we've ever discussed, but there's a gentleman called Rhodes Williams. He was a big armor modeler back in the early 2000s, 90s, did dioramas, but he posted a picture of his spot. I want to say it was like in Southern California in like a loft area. It was all glass, like leather. It was just an amazing space to sit in. And I think of like my dream space would be the mountains, open, like just that leather and like the look of the smell of leather bound books and the walls of mahogany. But that's a dream. Yeah, listeners, share your workspace with us. I know it's a topic that, has been covered multiple times, not only here, but elsewhere. But I think what we're talking about is really how it makes you feel. It's not about the configuration itself, but it makes you feel physically, mentally, emotionally. And I think it's really important that if your space isn't making you feel good, try to change it, because it freaking matters. Like when you get it in a spot that helps you, production goes up, you want to go in that room more, and overall I think it affects your life more too, because you're not stressed about it. So, and
also listeners, it's something I also want to stress, like sometimes when you look on the internet and you see all these amazing workspaces and workshops that people have, it can be very easy to be like, oh, I'll never have that, like that sucks, all that stuff. But it's just like, just because people have that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like if you have a organized little desk in the corner of your kitchen, or you work on your kitchen dining table, doesn't matter. Basically, what I'm kind of trying to say is don't be disheartened if you see things that are like may seem out of reach, because as many times... Posh, yeah. I'll fully admit, like, very fortunate to have this room. I did what the British do. I didn't ask for this room. I just took it. So yeah, it's one of the yeah. Don't be disheartened when you see these amazing workshops, because the workshop isn't always everything. It's how you find enjoyment, and if you find enjoyment, say at your kitchen table, amazing.
I think that's an awesome point, Jensen. I'm glad you brought it up, because just thinking of my own experience, I was fortunate at my house to have a nice little cozy basement workshop, and now in my condo, I've got a bigger, brighter workshop that is clean and organized. But in between, I was in a transition period in between when modeling was really important to me, to just kind of help me focus and get my mind off other stuff. And I was building off of a spare table in a room at my dad's house for a little bit with just the most minimum of tools. And it was some of the most enjoyable modeling that I've done in a while. And it is nice to have a space. It's nice to have everything in a place where it's set up and you don't have to unpack all the time. But that doesn't define how your building ability. Just like having quality tools is nice, but it doesn't mean that that's going to instantly make you a great modeler or whatever your chosen hobby is. So it is definitely nice to have, but it's not 100% essential. And if all you've got right now is a TV table, that you've got to set up and take down every single time you build, if that's what you need to do to build, then do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I got to shout out Brian Krieger.
Yeah,
he's one of the best modelers I've ever known, and just does amazing work. And he does the kitchen table. I think for a while he had his paints in the pantry. He just makes it work, and it certainly doesn't affect the quality in a negative way at all. So yeah, I think you make the best of it, and I think it just boils down to what John said. How does it make you feel? And Jensen touched on that too. This hobby is supposed to be therapeutic and relaxing. When you're done and you walk away, do you feel better? I think that's really, really the key part of any setup, no matter what it looks like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. It's really important to emphasize that, Jensen. I'm glad you brought it up. It's not about the size and how big and how many tools and how many paint bottles. I mean, I got 1,000 bottles of paint, but I can only paint as fast as anybody else. And like you said, Aaron, I think when you're living in an environment, or you have an environment that, constrained is the wrong word, but you have a fixed set of tools or paints, like that can be some of the most enjoyable times. You don't go through analysis paralysis of, oh, what shade do I need? What bottle should I grab? It's like, no, you have like 3 choices or 2 choices, or even just, hey, this is the green I'm using, as opposed to like, well, I have AK, Tamiya, Vallejo, ammo. And so with that, your workspace as well, some of the most, enjoyable times I remember are dorm room and undergrad, where my desk for academics was the same as the one I built models on, and same with grad school. And then even the small apartment that I lived in after grad school, having just that desk in the corner of the spare bedroom that was minimalist, but it was a safe space that you could go and enjoy yourself. I think that's really important. So yeah, listeners, miniatures, you don't need the big workshop. It's definitely nice, and it's something that like Jensen said, we are very fortunate and lucky to have, but that's not what you need to be happy. You just need that safe space that you can go to and enjoy something that takes you away from reality, to be honest.
Yeah, it's something you literally just said, and I was just like, oh, I couldn't agree more. Sometimes I think back, best modeling experience I've had were on my very tiny old computer desk, perfect starter sets. I was limited to the paints that were in the set. I had one paintbrush to choose from, and I was having the time of my life. I was just so lost in it. And again, analysis paralysis. I didn't have the burden of choice. It was, I've got what's in front of me, make it work. And it was great. It was an innocent, more simpler time back then in 2016.
You just gave me a memory. I'm 11 years old. I've got an F-15 that I, mowed some lawns to buy, and I'm in the backyard on a card table under an apricot tree. And my mom's got me covered head to toe in protective clothing, and I've got a cover on the card table, and I've got the model, put together in like 20 minutes and paint everywhere. But man, I was happy. Pure joy. Scott out in the backyard probably had paint on my face and everything else. But yeah, man, pure joy.
Well, this was certainly a great topic. I really appreciate all my co-hosts chipping in. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I'd love to hear more from the individuals within the group or who listen to us. Feel free to write in. We'd love to share your story. But yeah, how's your bench make you feel? It's not about what's there, what it looks like, where it is. Could be in the basement, could be in the penthouse. Could be a library, it could be a desk in the corner, but any and all between, feel free to reach out and how it makes you feel. And maybe if there was an opportunity to improve how it made you feel, what did you do? What was that update that really pushed you over the edge? So with that, I'll kick it over to Scott to go through our next subject.
Thanks, John. That was a good discussion. Let's get caught up on the AK truck build sponsored by Micro World Games. Just a reminder, Angel and Micro World Games are our newest partner. And if you need AK Interactive products, plastic model kits, display tools, value gear resin, and many other hobby essentials, look no further than Micro World Games. Remember, you can head on over there to the website, which is mwg-hobbies.com, for a special price on the AK trucks. Use our special coupon code PPP20ANGEL, and you'll get a 20% discount off the already lower kit purchase. They're probably just about sold out, so if you want one, probably encourage you to hurry up and get over there. We've launched a new group build, which you can see on our Plastic Posse group page. And I want to call out a couple of kits really quick before we get an update from how the trucks are here in the group. We've already touched on Dustin Diaz's truck, which I believe he just wrapped this morning. Wow, what a build. He's done one where he had the green paint kind of showing through a very distressed local fire brigade truck. It's a beautiful build. A really, really nice job by Dustin, and incredible. And then Mark Bradley has made a lot of progress. You can see that on the page as well. He's done kind of more of a tan desert approach on his. Mr. Banani, we'll talk about his in a minute. He's got a great paint job on his. So there's a whole bunch of really good builds that are going on right now. You can head on over to the Plastic Posse group and look at those and build along with us. If you're building, I know Cody Kaczynski out in Reno is building one with us, and a bunch of other people too. So let's start with Jensen. Jensen, how's your M10008 or 1008, I guess, Chevy truck coming along?
It's coming along, if that tells you anything. There is still no paint on it, which I know after last episode you're like, hey, get some paint on something. But yeah, there's no paint on it yet, but there is physically nothing else left to glue. So it is literally just paint and weather from this point on. Actually, that's a lie. The only thing I can glue is the sub-assemblies, but that's just a tack job at the end. But yeah, slowly been working on it. I've changed my mind since last episode. I was just like, it's going to be a bit like the intro to Fallout New Vegas, where it's like there's a grave and all that stuff. That's completely changed, as my projects do a billion times before they even get to the painting stage. But it's coming along. I just want to point out again how great of the kit is. Just things just go together nicely. Everything fits well. There's no issues with the kit. it's so nice that there has been an abundance of 3D files available for it that I've not printed at all. I have them. I just not run the printer yet, but it's coming along. Made some tiny, not even tiny modifications for it. It's a bit of a hybrid. It's the military vehicle with the benches in the back, the seats, and the canvas cover. I've removed the nubs for the antenna mounts, and it's going to be a civilian-owned vehicle. And there's going to be this guy and a girl. It's the new mini art figure set, new-ish. It's I have it here. They're called holiday makers. And basically there's 2 men, 2 women, and it's like the guys are just taking pictures, or there's 2 of them taking a selfie together. So it's modern day. And I think it'd just be like, I don't know, this guy owns a truck, he's taking his girlfriend on a coastal trip, and they're taking selfies next to the truck, next to the coast. I don't know. Something like that. And there's going to be like little McDonald's fry wrappers and stuff like that in the window, and it's just little details like that I'm hoping to get done. But yeah, it's all paint from here on in. There's nothing left to glue or snip off sprues.
Aaron, I know you said you had started on yours and you were enjoying the build.
Yeah, I've just got a little bit of basic chassis work done, but hopefully this weekend I'll get some more done. I've kind of had a couple different ideas that as far as the finish that I've started and stopped on. The first idea was it was going to be a dark blue U.S. Air Force truck. My first job was working at the Air Force Museum in Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio. And I remember we had to go on base for various reasons, get supplies or change or whatever. And these trucks were kind of like, I was trying to think, if you play video games, you're going to run across, no matter what type of game you play, 3D modeled objects, which are like recycled over and over again in different scenes and different levels, whether it be a vehicle or a box or whatever. You're going to be in the first level and the 100th level, and this box is going to keep showing up everywhere. That's what these trucks were like on the Air Force Base. Everywhere I drive, one of these stupid trucks would be parked on the parking lot or on the side of the flight line or somewhere. They were literally everywhere, and they were like a dark blue. They had U.S. Air Force in yellow and a serial number, whatever, painted on the door. And what I found now is while they were everywhere, not a single human being in the world apparently took a picture of one of these trucks ever in their lives, because I cannot find a picture anywhere of these trucks. And yeah, I can just spray one dark blue and move on, but I just was really hoping to find some pictures of some parked in the back corner lot of some vehicle depot or something that had some wear and rust, and use that for inspiration. And that did not come to pass. So as I was trying to find those, though, I find tons of inspiration, especially in the civilian world, with these trucks bought for other purposes. And one of them was this just old beat to crap local fire department truck that was 10 shades of faded red and dents everywhere. And I'm like, that's the perfect idea. And that's what Dustin apparently thought too. And his work is incredible. And I was looking at it, and I was just picking out some of the cool features that Dustin thought of. Like, there's a tonneau cover railing on this truck of his, and there's the mount points for what was probably a light bar on the roof, and just some cool stuff that didn't take probably long to do, but adds so much to it. And so I thought, all right, Dustin's got the fire department covered. What else can I do? And I think, Grant, you actually mentioned this as a possible scheme in one of the last episodes, was the U.S. Forestry Service used these trucks all over the place. And people did, in fact, take pictures of those. And they show up in the private market a lot. They're kind of a funky shade of like a mint green almost.
Yeah, that green is so recognizable. Yeah.
And fortunately, that green is kind of like Dunkelgelb. Or olive drab. There seems to be like a 1,000 variations of that, whether it be paint sample differences or fading or whatever. But I mean, these things could probably take a lot of beating. They're probably out there dealing with the same sort of brush fires the fire departments are, or dealing with clearing trails after a storm or whatever. So I've got some photos of those, and I went on eBay and I actually found some decals, U.S. Forestry Service decals in multiple different scales. A lot of it for the model train world, but there were some like 32nd scale ones that I think will work. So I ordered those, and I just got those yesterday in the mail. They look really cool, and markings on these trucks are simple. It's basically that logo on the doors, and that's about it. So I've got those logos, the paint color. I think somebody's mentioned some Tamiya paints that would get it pretty close. And my idea is I'm just going to build this thing pretty much out of the box. At this point, I'm pretty late to the game getting started on this. So I really don't want to get too paralyzed in trying to add a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to build it basically out of the box, paint and weather it looking like one of these forestry service trucks. I would like to see if I can find if somebody's put on Cults like a 3D design chainsaw or something like that to kind of shove in the bed of the truck. And I think that's kind of my vision now, and I'm pretty excited about that. So anxious to get moving on that.
Smokey the Bear is pretty happy right now, I think. Yeah, for sure. John, how's yours coming along?
It's coming along well. I spent a lot of time last Saturday, really painting it. I went from raw plastic to basically finished painting in a day. Really nice kit. I think everybody's mentioned the benefits of, what this kit has to offer, the flexibility. And I'm in the part now where I just got to do a little bit of detail painting and then it's on to weathering. Mine is the 3-tone NATO scheme. There's actually a great reference of a vehicle that was being sold at like government auction or something that I'm kind of using as a reference. It's really grimy. It's actually got like moss on the back of it, which I find kind of cool, or like that greenish stain. So I'm excited to get after it. I've done a little bit of changes with it. I replaced the back bumper with a civilian bumper because I want to put a license plate on it. I'm having Jackson. He's going to do Triple P 2021 when we started. So I'll put that as a plate on the back and on a plate on the front. But overall, yeah, really nice kit. Mine's painted in AK 3rd Gen lacquers. Really excited to get some placards on the interior. That's what I hope to finish up today. And then, just get after it, finishing the scene. I have a bunch of stuff 3D printed, whether it's cinder blocks, pallet, ladder. The thing I'm looking to include is a figure. The figure that I really like is one that David Parker used on his vivisectioned T62. It's kind of like a rather overweight man in coveralls. That's a Riodoc miniatures figure. So I'm thinking of probably just ordering one direct from them. I was hoping, and I'm still looking, on Cults, there's a couple civilians that they have. And if you search construction workers, there's a lot of options there. And I might just pick one, a civilian. I've seen a couple, like a dude in overalls. Yeah, I've seen one in a white tank top, I'll say. But regardless, I just need to grab a figure for it, continuing the weathering, and it should be done. It's pretty quick, and I will get a base made for it. I need to reach out to Christian. I have a few bases that they need to build for me, and some name placards, and that will be one of them. But overall, really good, really nice kit. Watchouts, there's no big watchouts for me. I removed the 2 windows. That's the one option I wish they would have included, where molding 2 sets of doors or giving you some way of inserting the window into the door, because I removed the windows. I actually like it that way. And I did that on both windows because I kind of screwed up and sanded on the one. And I was like, well, I don't want to polish it out, so I'll just remove the whole thing. Kudos to Zach again for that. But that's kind of the little, that would have been a nice to have, I'll say. But otherwise, it's super nice. And I found some buckles and seatbelt buckle sets on Cults for free for like an RC car. And I scaled them for 1/35 and then used Tamiya tape for the belt. So just a little accessories here and there. And I'm super excited to get it across the finish line very soon.
John, you'd mentioned kind of the potential of this kit, and I hope they do come out with there's a Blazer version that, would have, multiple applications and especially in the civilian world as well, but also military and even different versions of this. I like you, I'd love to have the doors without the windows. I think that would be an ease of build. But one other version that, there maybe even the aftermarket world can pick up. TJ mentioned, a lift kit would be cool for this. With some different, upgraded tires on it, and a step side, which I don't know if step sides are a thing in other markets other than the U.S., but the bed's more narrow and the rear wheels are just basically covered by fenders, and is more for a cosmetic look than anything else. But in my neighborhood growing up, there was a family that had one of these with the step side and maybe a small lift kit, some really cool wheels on it and white painted Krager wheels. And the whole truck was gray and it was pristine. It just was like the equivalent of the Toyota in Back to the Future to me, the feeling it gave me seeing this truck as a kid. And it was always parked in the same spot. And every time I would go past this house, I'd sit there and dream about that truck. Well, fast forward 35 years later, that truck is still parked in the same spot. Unfortunately, with 30 years of wear and, the paint's degraded and you can see the rust on it. And I'm not sure if the tires are flat now, but it's still sitting there. And every time I drive in to visit my dad, I still see that truck. And if there's a step side version of this, I'd be buying one in a heartbeat and building this truck that I've seen all my life that just is so cool. And I think there's a market out there for that, especially in the US. These things were all over the place, right? These things are so common and there's lots of people who love them and have memories of them.
Yeah, especially like that Blazer, man. If they made a Blazer version here in the US, at least they would sell, I think, a lot of those kits. Grant, how's your build coming along?
It's going along. I've got all the build done except for the subsections, which I'm like, Jensen, I'll just tack together at the end. I'm not going to go with the shelter like I talked about before because I didn't do the suspension right. The suspension would have been dropped down in the back and it kind of wouldn't look right now. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to figure out, still do something with the snow camouflage, maybe throw a whole bunch of tools in the back or something like that, or something to that effect. Again, great kit. Follow the recommendations. Start on step 2. Then go back to step 1 after you completed step 2. Thank you, Jensen and TJ, for that. That helped out immensely. Beautiful kit. Love some of the adaptions. The 3D prints you can get are amazing. Black Dog has now got a couple kits for it. They've got some figures for it, some rednecks they're calling it, I believe. And then they've got some stuff you can put in the back and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you're going to see more. I like the idea of the step side. That's a great idea. I think that would be really cool. Or the Bronco, the M1109, I think it is. Version. That would be, because if you could lift that thing in, that would be just perfect. Just paint it purple or something and just have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, it's been a great kit. It's been a fun build. I hope to get some paint on it this weekend. It's in the pile of things I've started but haven't finished yet, but I'm getting to. So I'm enjoying seeing what's on the thing. The Forest Service one, that green is like a mint green. So, it's a light green. I know they were up here in Washington. Or in Washington State where I grew up, they were mint green.
Yeah, almost like a pistachio.
Yeah,
really
it's like
unusual green color. Yeah,
it was, and they were used for everything, like you said. They were the rangers that were working at parks and camping areas to hotshot fire crews. Were using them in that green color. So you've got a 1,000 ideas there. So that'll be good, AJ. I can't wait to see what you do with that. I didn't know they could get decals for them too. So that's a good one. That's a good to know also. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm having a great time with it.
Well, again, listeners, if you're building along, please post your progress in the group, and you can check out all the great builds that we're talking about right now and that we've referenced earlier on. So enjoy this kit. It sounds like everybody's really having a good time with it. Can't wait to see the different variations. All right, let's move into interview number 1 of 2. You get bonus interviews this time around. Here at the Posse, we're generous, and all interviews are brought to you at no additional cost, of course. We got to sit down and speak with Scott Primeau and this last week. Scott is an incredible modeler. His work has won Best of Show awards at IPMS Nationals, at, of course, the MMSI show, recently at the Tulsa Figure Show. His piece Ascension, which also took Best of Show at MMSI, took Best of Show there. He's an incredible painter. He's really, really talented. His blending work is second to none, and his use of light is really good too. So anyway, here's this interview, and hope you enjoy it. Welcome in, everybody, to another Plastic Posse podcast interview. I am excited to talk to Scott Primeau. We've been trying to kind of do this for a while. Scott, welcome on the show.
Oh, thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Also have the one and only Mr. John Bonani is with us today.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
And my brother from another mother, Grant Mayberry. How you doing today, Grant?
Good, sir, and welcome, Scott. And it's finally great to get you on. I know we had some scheduling errors at the beginning of all this, but I'm really glad we finally got to work this out.
Thank you. No problem. No problem.
Well, I met Scott at the MMSI show, the Chicago show, and immediately, of course, you're struck by his work. But when I got to I guess know Scott a little bit better was I was a judge trainee, and Scott was our team lead, and taught me in a couple of hours more about judging figures than I had ever known. And it was pretty awesome to work, Scott, with you and to see the way that you saw figures. Especially, I remember you really taught me a lot about painting faces and the use of light.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, judging is a fun thing to do, I think, especially at the Chicago show, because you can really get up close and handle some figures, and you're in a situation where you're kind of secluded without the people around you, I guess. It makes it for an interesting way to observe things. But yeah, I was glad to have you. It's always good to. I remember I was once learning it all too, and it was good to work with you and get you kind of not figure out, but to kind of learn the way of doing it, I guess. But it's a good way of judging, I think.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable. It's one of the things that makes the show great. The community is really tight knit. Let's get started maybe with just, tell us a little bit about how you became a modeler. I know that in addition to figures and busts, you do quite a bit of armor. I think you've done some aircraft as well. You kind of do a little bit of everything, but tell us a little bit about how you got started and who Scott is.
Well, I started out basically doing airplanes, but I've soon learned that I don't like building things. I just don't like building plastic kits. So eventually I got into putting figures together, because all you got to do is glue some arms on a figure and put his head on, and then you can start painting. I like painting armor, painting airplanes, but I don't like the process of building as much. So I kind of got into figures, and I started out with oil paints and learning the process of that, I guess. And then now, I don't know, that's probably 20 years ago now, acrylics became more and more popular, I guess longer than that even, but acrylics became more and more popular, and you kind of started trying to figure that out. I still use oil paints quite a bit, but yeah, I like painting busts mostly just because the best part, I think, is painting the skin tones and the flesh, and especially the eyes. And I kind of recently got back into painting 54 millimeter figures a little bit more. I haven't really done something that small for a while, and the last couple figures I've done have been 54 millimeters. So that's kind of been refreshing to get back into the smaller scale stuff. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I modeled, and then went to college and, kind of forgot about it, all that kind of stuff. Got back into it after college. And, I've always been interested in history and miniatures. So kind of works hand in hand, I guess.
Who are some of your influences? I mean, you've really got obviously a talent for shading and light and faces and everything. So who are some people that maybe inspired you early on to kind of go in the direction that you've gone?
Well, I got into the Minnesota Military Figure Society right when I got back into modeling. And I would say that was probably 22, 3, maybe even longer now. Boy, it's been a while. But there's a couple guys in that club that are still members of the club, Mike Bedard and Chris Barrett and Jim Thebus. These guys were, especially Mike and Chris, they were around a lot longer than me doing figures and stuff. And Mike was really an influence on what I do. I remember seeing his stuff at a local hobby shop. When I was getting back into it, I always said to myself, I want to get into doing that. I want to get into doing the little dioramas that he did, whatever. I got kind of introduced into the club. And yeah, I mean, it's those local people for sure have been influences for me in everything I do. But Mike and Chris are more figure painters. In our club, there's a bunch of different modelers. They do everything from ships to figures to tanks to whatever. And there's just a core group of us, or a handful of us, I guess, that do mostly figures or do figures. But
yeah,
locally, that's my influences, I guess. So they go to the Chicago show too. They kind of go to the shows with me wherever we go as a group. Us Minnesotan guys always kind of go together. So
that's good. You got to stay together. Well, we were talking about your club before we started recording, and it really sounds like an amazing group. You mentioned that they do IPMS, they do amps, they do figures. I mean, there really are no boundaries. That club just sort of does a little bit of everything.
Yeah. No, there's 3 or 4 clubs locally. Well, I should say in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, but the one that I belong to is the Minnesota Military Figure Society. And we're an IPMS chapter, we're an AMPS chapter, we're the World Figure Federation chapter. I think we're a little bit of everything. I think we were one of the original World Figure Federation chapters. The club has been around for quite a while. And
Wow.
just because it's called Figure Society doesn't necessarily mean we just do figures. And there's people that just come in to talk shop and see what people are doing, and there's people that do models. It's kind of, some nights we have 40 members there, some nights we have 20. We meet once a month, second Friday of the month. So it's just it's a good group of guys. So
that's great. I've been a big fan of yours for a while. I've seen a lot of your stuff at IPMS Nationals before and stuff like that. I know you're sculpting a lot of your stuff too. Did you have any sculpting training, or is this all just stuff you learned off on the street? Let's just say that way.
No, I don't have any training for any of that. I don't know if sculpting is a real word. I guess I just throw stuff together. But it's kind of just, I've tried to be more original recently, I guess, over the last 4, 5, 6 years. So yeah, I don't know. I've learned a little bit here and there. Like I said, the Mike Bedard and Chris. Mike sculpts a lot, and I learn a lot from him. And I think a lot of it's just how it looks and how it feels, I guess. If it doesn't look right, then it probably isn't right. So then you throw a little bit more putty on there. But especially for the Chicago show, which is kind of the culmination of shows for me every year. Mm-hmm. I go to the Tulsa show and some other local shows. And if some of the other shows are close, I go to the IPMS or the Nats for amps. But the Chicago show in October is always a culmination show for me. So I always try to do something original. Well, recently I try to do something original every year for that show. So
yeah, you can definitely tell. Ascension is one of, we've seen pictures of it, and I've actually sat there and talked to you this last year about it. It's an amazing piece, but I like some of your earlier stuff, I guess. There's one called Stitches, is really, really nice. I love the work you did on the face with the stitches and stuff like that. And another one says, "Hey Cowboy." I love that one. That's just a perfect little small vignette, tells a great story, and it's beautiful. Were those sculpted by you, the figures, or those were all sculpted?
Yeah, the figures were sculpted. The heads one of the heads is a Alpine 16 scale head. Mm-hmm. And the other, the gal is, I don't know where I found that head, but I'm not really good at sculpting faces. So I kind of use a resin head of some sort. Like for Ascension, it was a 1/9 or 1/6 scale head that you put on an action figure or a G.I. Joe or whatever. And I kind of just grab heads that look good and then kind of sculpt around that. So
right.
Yeah, and then he just kind of wins Best of Show at MMSI. Yeah, I was going to
say. Oh, and don't forget, Best of Show at IPMS with Stitches. So don't worry, it's like that. So it's really great to see that worked in the storytelling that you do have in your stuff. Even Ascension it's a single figure, but it tells a great story. It has a great look to it. It tells a story. Do you look for do you prefer it to tell a story, or do you just look for a figure to guide you in what you want to do with it?
Well, you always have ideas, and there's always the thing that I'm doing now is another idea that I've had in my mind for a long time. But I think Ascension, I found a picture of something similar on Facebook or on the web somewhere. It's an AI image of a kind of the same thing, a cybernetic female warrior that, is missing half her body and ascending up into the nether regions, I guess you want to put it. And I kind of thought how I could do that. And that was something I wanted to do for a couple of years. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to always tell a story. I think that always makes whatever it is better, but it's good to have a story before you go dive into some of these things, because you kind of have an idea what you're going to come up with at the end, hopefully. But yeah, it's always good to tell a story. It's always good to come up with a story and then kind of figure out how you're going to do it. But I use a lot of images that I see that are cool or interesting, and I try to copy that, I guess, or use that as a base to do the project, I suppose.
I love the fact that you, like we talked about before, you kind of use your mixture of materials. You use a resin head or whatever, and then you'll sculpt the rest. I find that amazing because I can't sculpt and I can barely find what I need to do anyway. So it's funny that you say that, is because, and the fact that you actually kind of went back down to 54 millimeter or 1/35 scale, 1/32 scale, whatever you want to call it. Are you is the thing you're working on now, is that in a smaller scale like that, or are you back up into a little bit bigger scale?
It's a smaller scale. Yeah, it's a smaller scale. And then the funny thing that we have in our group too is between those guys that I explained before, we do secret projects, quote unquote, secret projects.
Yeah.
And it's every year I try to do a secret project that I try to get done for Chicago, and I can't really explain. I can't delve into it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny where they always say they're doing secret projects, but then they never finish it. Or sometimes, it's easy to say you do a secret project. But anyway, yeah, this is one of my secret projects. And like Ascension was a secret project last year, and the Superman flat and the Cowboy and the Saloon Grill, all those were quote unquote secret projects. But yeah, no, this is a smaller scale. It's going to be a little bit of a box diorama. And the subject is going to be something different, but I've never done any type of I don't know if it's really a box diorama. The box diorama purists may not think it is, but we'll see how it turns out. So it's one of those, this is a project that I don't really, some of it's kind of just going by the seat of your pants. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't know. I've never done that before, but we'll see how it turns out. I should have it done for Chicago, hopefully. And that's what's kind of driving me here for the next couple months. So.
Did you hear that, Barry? He's probably pretty excited that you're going to do something in that realm. Before we move on to other things, just Ascension, I just have to ask you a little bit about it. I mean, you and I got to talk about it at the show, but I was really struck by that piece because you have she's I mean, I don't know if anybody out there is familiar maybe with Battle Angel Alita, sort of half human, half cyborg. You really caught both elements of a machine, but also it's a very humane piece. And you've got the head looking up and her eyes are closed and her face is bathed in light, she's kind of lifting up and whatever. And then the metallic parts of her are very kind of cold and very, very metallic and everything. But maybe can you talk about how that all comes together, or is that just something that you just kind of work on and it happens, or because it's just beautiful. It's really stunning.
Thanks. No, you kind of have a plan. Like I said, you kind of have an idea what you're trying to do. Just from that image I found a while ago, you want to show some mechanical parts, but then you want to the picture itself was what looked like a human, but clearly she was a cyborg or whatever you want to call it. But she had mechanical bits and parts, kind of coming from her abdomen. And for the most part, the neck down is all cybernetic and the head is human. And you kind of want to show that part of it. But the insides of her guts, I guess, were like railroad parts, like HO scale parts that you put on engines and boxcars and things like that. There were metal parts that I had stashed away somewhere for some reason, and they came in handy. So, yeah, I mean, all that put together kind of gave it the cybernetic feel, the robotic feel, and kind of want to show the human side, but then I kind of wanted to show the human side, yet the cybernetic side, I guess, or the robot side. But that's what that image kind of showed to me. And then the background too, I kind of wanted to incorporate the lighting that you kind of see with the piece where the orange glow is coming up from behind because she's leaving a destroyed world or whatever you want to call it. And you could see the lighting on her abdomen. I painted the background to kind of show that as well. But you kind of try to incorporate all the colors a little bit together. So
I also really like how you portrayed the body to the head. That transition, you purposely made it imperfect so that you could clearly, I'm assuming you you did that that you could clearly delineate, cyborg versus humanity.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Yep. I mean, the neck down is all supposed to be mechanical, but the head itself is what is trying to be human, I guess, so to speak. Yeah, and the flesh color, the skin tones kind of change right at the neck until you get to the metallic part of the body and the arms and all that. So at the neckline there, yeah, I think you nailed it. It's exactly what I was trying to portray. So
I also like the fact that the wings or the things on the shoulder of the wings, I thought they were hands for the first couple of times I walked by it. And it kind of looked like someone was lifting them up or lifting her up. And then seeing it closer and being able to get closer to it. I like how that kind of came together. I don't know if you meant to do that or whatever, but it just kind of looked that way to me the whole time. And that was one of those things that just was beautiful about the whole thing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, that I was thinking kind of Valkyrie-like, and I was looking at symbols of Valkyries. And you could, if you do a Google search on a Valkyrie, you can kind of see 100 different symbols. But those winged symbols were a Valkyrie symbol, and then I had to sculpt them on the arm, shoulder. They're like shoulder pauldrons, I guess. And I never really meant them to look like hands, but people told me that at the Chicago show, and I was like, wow, I guess I never knew that. But yeah, it kind of, like you say, it kind of looks like hands holding her up or helping her ascend, I guess, so to speak. But yeah, it's never meant to be that way, but it kind of turned out that way. So
Yeah, and Scott, for this piece, I'm really curious. Your blending is flawless, and are you using an airbrush, or is this truly all hand painted?
no, pretty much the body, the neck down is airbrush.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know, it would be really hard to feather that out. So the neck down is airbrush. Obviously the things on her arm or the things on her shoulders, the pauldrons, are hand paint or brush painted. The head is primarily brush painted, but then I did airbrush a little bit to kind of smooth things out because larger scale, especially female figures, you have to kind of feather things out. They have to be smoother, or at least that's kind of the interpretation you kind of have to take on them. Yeah, the neck down is all airbrush, and the head itself is. I started out brush painting, but ended up airbrushing and smoothing some of the shadows and the colors you see on that.
Maybe I'd love to ask some questions around your process because I'm an extreme novice when it comes to painting figures, and I would just love to kind of walk through your steps all the way from figure prep to, honestly tying a bow on it at the end. And if you could just maybe start off, let's just say hypothetically, because it's probably different for a bust versus a 35th scale figure. And since I'm biased towards 35th scale figures, I want to ask about that because I want to learn from the best. So when you get an alpine figure, we'll say, like, what's kind of your first step in the prep process for a figure?
Well, you got to prime it, I think. And I think I primarily prime by doing a zenithal highlight. So I paint traditionally a black figure, then I go not all the time white, but sometimes maybe the base color of the uniform or whatever color is going to be most of the figure. And I airbrush that from above. And I try to do a zenithal highlight. And that kind of, in the smaller scales, that kind of lays the foundation of where you're going to be putting your colors. And then I think when you get smaller scales, like the 35th or the 54 millimeter, even 75 millimeter, I think your contrast has to be a little bit higher than you are when you are doing the bust scales or 16 scale. When I paint smaller scales, I always use acrylics, or I have been using acrylics. When I paint larger scales, a lot of times with flesh tones, I'll use oil paints and sometimes acrylics. So it can be a mixed bag on either one, but I can't really say this is my 1, 2, 3 through Z, A, B, C through Z process of painting figures. Sometimes I always start with the face or the head. And then I go, if I like the way that looks, then you kind of block in the hair or the helmet or whatever it is and see how the colors work together. Because it's always, when you're painting a face in a large scale like that, sometimes you paint the hair and it doesn't look right. So you want to have the surrounding colors around it because harmony should look good, if that makes sense. And then when my face is done, then I'll paint the eyes. And the eyes, the eyes are the most important thing, especially in the larger scale figures. So it's always important to get them looking the right way. Or I always find in the bust scales to try to make the eyes look one way or the other and not straight ahead. Because sometimes when they look straight ahead, the viewer will be able to notice if they're not lined up correctly, and it's harder to notice if they are looking one way or the other. So I always try to have the eyes look one direction or the other, or up or down or something like that. But yeah, there is no real process for me. I kind of just throw paint on it and see how it looks. I took a class with Alfonso Geraldes in where was that? Winnipeg a number of years ago, and he's, if you've heard of him, Banshee, he's a phenomenal figure painter from Spain, but he just throws paints on it and it doesn't matter for him. The colors are colors. And if you don't like the color, you can always throw more acrylic paints on top of it. Sometimes I kind of go that way where it doesn't have to be olive drab. It could be green. And then you kind of highlight it with a purple, or shadow with a purple, and you highlight it with a different color that's way off kilter. Something you don't think of. And then I'll sometimes airbrush inks, diluted inks on top of that and change the color a little bit more. There's not a lot of rights or wrongs, I think. You just got to kind of match the colors you're trying to look at, but it's not utterly important, especially when you get into the fantasy world. I don't know. I always start with the face and go from there, but as far as processes go, I don't know. It's hard to say. I always try to start from the inside out on the body. If you have a vest or something inside the coat, you start with that, and then you go to the outside. That's kind of just some, whatever basic things that I try to do. If that helps, I don't know if that explained it, but
No, that's good. So when you're using, I assume Vallejo, Andrea, what's your preferred paint? Or like you just said, probably a mix of everything.
yeah. For flesh tones, like the larger scales, I like to mix my flesh tone colors. So I use like Liquitex or just Sonia. I think that's how it's pronounced, just Sonia. But yeah, I mean, you can pretty much make a Caucasian white skin tone from red, yellow, and blue, and a little bit of white. I mean, you can make as basic of a skin tone from just those basic colors, and you can add different tones and things like that to change the color a little bit. But I like to mix my colors traditionally, typically, and it works the same with the oil paints too. I mean, that's what people have done for hundreds of years. That's how they mixed flesh tones. There was no tube of flesh tone back in the day. So you had to learn how to mix. And that to me is fun because I never remember what I did on the last figure. So the next one's always different. And it just keeps you changing things too. You can always change the red from vermilion red to whatever, cadmium red or something like that. And it'll change the entirety of the flesh tone. So smaller scales, yeah, it's kind of hard to mix colors. I'll use the traditional Vallejos. I kind of like the AK third generation stuff right now. Those colors are really nice and they dry really, really matte. Yeah, I mean, otherwise for the smaller scales, I'll just use, the flesh tone colors and then add colors to that. But as I paint more busts and 16 scale or bigger figures, yeah, I like to mix my own colors for the flesh tones.
Nice. And when you're mixing your colors, I've heard some people use water. I've heard some people use the, AK third gen thinner. What are you cutting your paints with to thin them?
Mostly water. Yeah.
Okay.
Just water. Yes. Every so often I may use some flow improver or something like that, maybe, but mostly just water. Water. Nothing more than that.
And then I assume Kolinsky sable brush and maybe like a single lot or like what size are you typically using?
Yeah. The manufacturers are all different. A double lot with a Series 7, the Winsor Newton can be different for another manufacturer. The sizes are somewhat different, but the double lot was double lot would probably be the smallest. I use maybe up to a 1 or a 2. What's important, I think, the Kolinsky sable, but what's important is to have a tip, is to have a good point. And you can paint even the finest details with a bigger brush as long as the point is good. And you don't need a smaller brush. In fact, it's probably helpful because with acrylics especially, the paints will dry in your brush a lot quicker. So it's important to kind of have a little bit more paint in the ferrule of the brush or the brush bristles, and then if it flows off the point better or the tip better, that's better than having a smaller brush where the acrylic dries in the bristles quicker. So there's a misconception, I think, where people want smaller brushes to do smaller details. But I don't know. You can get pretty small, but I don't think you really need to, just as long as the point is good, as long as the tip of the brush is good. Winsor Newton Series 7s have always been one of my favorite brushes. And then I can't remember what I'm using now. I think I'm using a Rosemary and Company brush. I can't remember what size it is, but I like to try different brushes, just like paints, I guess.
No, for sure. I often compare them to like golf clubs. You find the one you like, and then you kind of stick with it for a while, and then you get a little bored and try something else. So with your painting style, again, a novice figure painter, so I love asking questions about this. One of the things I've struggled with is, I guess, glazing and not getting a tide mark or, not having it look muddy. Is there anything, to a novice like myself, when you're glazing something, let's say you're glazing a leather strap or you want to glaze the sleeve or shadow, or, actually better one is the shadows of a figure. Like, I guess, are you cutting it just with water and then you're just like no pooling, I assume, and I'll just step back and let you talk through your process there. No,
you're exactly right. I mean, usually water and it's better to, if you're going to glaze, it's better to thin the paint more and then build it up. Many glazes. I mean, I'll just go into another tangent, but I think most people think because you're using acrylics, it's much faster, and it truly isn't. You have something where you have 100, maybe 60 layers of glazes and whatever on top with acrylics. It's faster drying than oil paints, but it doesn't go much quicker than oil paints as far as applying the paint. But yeah, it's better to thin it and build it up than to have a glaze that's too much pigment with not enough water, I guess. And another trick or another thing you kind of have to remember is when you're glazing, you want to end the brush. Wherever the brush stops on the figure, where you pick it off the figure is where you want the darkest color, because wherever your brush stops on a figure is where it's going to leave a little bit of a dropper, I guess, of paint. And you want that to be where it's dark. So if you're glazing into a shadow where it's a fold in some guy's jacket or something, but the inside of the fold, the deepest part of the fold is a dark olive drab, let's just say. If you're glazing that, you want to start outside of the fold and go into that deepest part of the fold, because that's where the most of the paint will. It's just a natural thing is when you lift the brush off the figure, there's going to be paint right there. And that kind of helps from leaving tide marks or things you don't want. Hopefully that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, it's important to, and I use a lot of inks as well. And it's the same thing with the inks is you really, really need to keep in mind that inks are highly pigmented, and it's good to super thin them with water or whatever medium you want to use. But traditionally it's mostly water, but you want to keep them super thin because it's better to start out with thin glazes, meaning very little pigment, than it is to go overboard and have heavy pigmented glazes that now you kind of went too much, and now you got to take it back a little bit. So layer upon layer of glazes. And it's kind of the way it goes for acrylics. It's not a fast way of painting. Everybody thinks acrylics are fast. They just dry faster, but the process of painting with acrylics is not fast. It's if you want to do the glazing, you're doing a lot of layers. So
do you ever use glazes or filters through your airbrush, or is it always with a paintbrush?
Oh yeah, for sure. I like to use the inks through the airbrush. And in fact, for the Ascension piece, a lot of what you see in her abdomen and her arms, that's a lot of inks glazed through the airbrush. Yeah, for sure. Or layered through the airbrush, thin glazes of inks. But yeah, for sure. And another way of doing it is if you paint the uniform or the khaki or the olive drab pants or whatever it is, you can always airbrush from below, a darker color. And it's kind of an easy way of making those shadows too. And then you can build upon it with brushes brush painting if you want. But I typically, or a lot of the time I will, if there's a color that, especially in fantasy figures, that if there's a color that will make something kind of weird looking, or not weird, but stand out a little bit, I'll even airbrush like violets and reds on colors that are kind of odd, like maybe a green or something like that. It just makes different hues. It makes it more interesting, I guess. If you thin it down enough, the ink or even an acrylic paint, if you thin it down enough, it's hardly noticeable initially. And then if you like it, you can keep building it up. But you can do that with brushing or airbrushing. So
that's really, really interesting. Besides the way that you do amazing blending and you do amazing faces, one of the things that I really like about your work too is you do transparent fabric. So Grant mentioned stitches earlier, and then you also did one, I think it's called Veiled Lady, if I'm not mistaken. But
Veil,
yeah, Veil. You're making, resin or whatever. It's almost like you're making it disappear into the figure. So can you help us out with like how you accomplish that?
Yeah, well, like for the Veil Lady, yeah, it's if I remember correctly, I painted the flesh tones like she wasn't wearing anything. And then you kind of have to figure that in the deepest recesses of the figure, like in her armpits, where the clothing folds into itself, you're going to have a darker color. So you have to brush paint. I think I brush painted like a dark gray in those areas. And then maybe I mixed a little flesh tones in that. Boy, this is a while ago. You're bringing back things I can't remember now. Let's see here. I think I mixed a darker gray or a gray into the flesh tones and painted that into the recesses. And then over that, because you already have the flesh tones where it's touching the fabric, you already have the flesh tones there. I think I glazed through an airbrush contrast, Games Workshop contrast color. I think it was a grayish contrast color over the top of that, and built that up over and over again until it kind of showed that sheer effect of that fabric on top of the flesh. Yeah, it's kind of a way of, you have to trick the person into thinking that there's a fabric there, and that's kind of the way you have to do it. But you got to also just keep in mind that wherever it's deeper in the recesses, it's going to be darker, I guess. And that's where the armpits are, or where the fabric folds on itself and things like that. But I guess that's my explanation. It's kind of it was fun to do. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it, but you look at pictures of something similar and you kind of try to copy what you see there.
Well, well done. I mean, just it's really, really terrific. You mentioned kind of the Chicago show is kind of your main show, but you also mentioned you went to the AMPS Nationals last year when it was in Indiana. Is that something that you're going to be coming back to in the future?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just about a 10-hour drive from the Twin Cities, I guess. So it's not a terrible drive. Maybe it's not even that long, but yeah, our group will go to that again. The show I thought it was done very well there. I thought the venue was really cool. I always try to make the AMPS Nationals and then IPMS as well if it's somewhat close. But yeah, we'll be definitely going to South Bend next year for sure.
I'm assuming you went to Madison
last
year. Yeah, that's pretty relatively close, right, to Minnesota?
Yeah, no, that was nice being that close. That's for sure. Yeah. That was fun too.
I know when you've spoken with Barry before, you talk about your secret project, but I can't wait to see what you're going to bring to MMSI this year. But I won't ask you about it. I know that's it. But have you ever been to any shows outside of the U.S.?
No. Someday, no, I haven't. I'd like to go to SMC sometime. I hear you guys talk about that, and those of you the guys that have, and yeah, no, I would like to go to that show. That looks like a lot of fun. I mean, even the expo that was in Versailles, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, looking at the pictures from what was on the tables there, it blows your mind. I mean, I'm still going through the images of the pieces that were on the table there.
Yeah.
Tables. So, I mean, maybe someday, but my work schedule and time off kind of stuff kind of doesn't really allow me to do it yet. But hopefully, I'd like to get to the SMC at some point for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely, it's going to be fun we're going, like I said, I get to go this year for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great. I have a question. I was taking notes. Sorry. I was where you were talking about how your painting process. And I found it interesting. You said that you do like a Zenithal where you don't use the white, use the prime color of the figure. Is there a reason for that? Or, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I just I haven't seen that before. I was just wondering about that.
No, I'm not going to say all the time. Sometimes I do a white zenithal as well on top of the black. But if there's a figure where it's going to be predominantly like green or olive drab, or I'm just always throwing olive drab out there, I'll usually spray from above that base color of the olive drab, whatever I'm going to be using, because I know that that's going to be my middle ground for color.
Right.
And it's doing the same thing as any traditional zenithal light, but you're laying down the color where the highlights will be, and then it's easier to build the lights on top of that, or the highlights on top of that. It's not all the time, but sometimes I do it that way. On flesh tones or like the head itself, it's usually spray black for the skin tones, and then not all the time, I guess. Sometimes I do things different all the time. It's hard to explain. Sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's the other. But if you're trying to find a desaturated type face or a color or flesh tones that are more, or I should say less saturated, then I kind of use a black base and then highlight with white. But I really do try to cover most of the face with the white, because the black will sometimes not be the greatest color to put flesh tones on top of. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any hard and fast rules on how I do things. And I'm an incredibly slow painter when it comes to figures or anything. So I try not to strip things, but I do strip things from time to time. But yeah, I'm incredibly slow. So I don't really have a traditional way of doing things. And I think the way I mix colors too for the flesh tones, I don't write down anything what I did one time. I know there's kind of a core group of colors I know that work very well together with the oils and with the Liquitex paints I use, or the Jassonia paints that I use. I have kind of a core triad of colors that work very well together. But sometimes I'll mix those as well just to try to get a different flesh tone or try to get a different effect. So, but yeah, I don't really have any hard and fast rules for most anything I do.
Yeah. Another question real quick. You use a lot of inks. Sounds like you're using more and more. Do you use Liquitex or are you using another different brand and when you're spraying, like, I think you said you spray off colors for your sci-fi or your fantasy figures. What brand are you using for those inks?
Liquitex inks,
okay.
dollar Rowney inks are something you can get at arts and craft stores too. Even the contrast paints that Games Workshop does. And now everybody's coming out with that kind of paint. I think AK's coming out with a paint now too that's similar to that, but it seems like everybody's now has that. I haven't tried any of those, but I have a few of the contrast paints, and if you thin them down, I mean they're basically, I think, kind of an ink, and you thin them down as well. But yeah, the Liquitex inks are really good. They're really pigmented. The dollar Rowney ones are pigmented too, but you also have to look at if they're opaque or semi-opaque or transparent as well, and they'll have that marking on the ink bottle. And that'll make a big difference, too, on the effect you're going to get. Obviously, the opaque inks, you may have to thin down quite a bit more, but the transparent inks really work well for filters or glazes of different effects that you're going to try to put on the figure, too. And you don't have to airbrush these either. You can thin them and brush paint them as well. But airbrushing is a good way of doing it, is a good way of doing it, too. So
when you say you thinned it down, the more heavily pigmented, what are you talking, like 70-30, 80-20?
Probably close to, I try to be very transparent with it, so probably 10% pigment, 90% water. I mean, it's better to start super thin and build it up.
Yeah.
And not go too far. And it's also knowing what you're using too as well. And if you know, because if you've used it before, you know how it's going to work. So sometimes I may go a little bit higher of a pigmentation ratio, but I mean, for the most part, 10% pigment and 90% water, something to that effect. And it's not a perfect science, but yeah, I mean, it's always good to build it up because you can go too far right away, and then you got to always take it back, I guess, and that's harder to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Scott, I guess I'll ask a question. I'm really curious. You float between mostly figures, you say, but you do embrace armor. How does your process change for an armor piece versus a figure? Is it the same? Are you using the same type of paints? Or are you taking a departure and maybe spraying some Tamiya? Like, tell me your thoughts around going between genres.
With armor, I typically use the Tamiya paints, I guess. I find them everybody likes them. I thin it with the Mr. Color leveling thinner, that kind of stuff. But I kind of try to do not the contrast, but I can't remember what it's called. The
modulation.
Modulation. There you go. I try to use the modulation effect a little bit because you're always, with the weathering, you're always going to take it down a little bit. I look at armor. I'm not a real purist in armor where it has to be perfectly realistic. I think I like it to be more artistic, just like the figures. And sometimes I go a little crazy on the weathering, but yeah, I try to do modulation, try to do the filters, oil dot filters on top of that, some other filters. Like this, I did a Panther recently where I used, the Tamiya clear orange on top of that, the Dunkelgelb, the yellow, and that kind of gave it a different effect as well. Then I did weathering on top of that. But I haven't done a lot of armor pieces, probably 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5. I used to do them a lot more, but now I guess the figures are more what I try to get done more, I guess. But yeah, it's not another thing where I kind of have a way of doing it. It's just what looks good or what I think looks good. And however you need to get that effect. I use a lot of oils on armor as well for the weathering, the dust effects and things like that. Mix oils with pigments for the mud effects and that kind of stuff, I guess.
Kind of bringing it around to sort of biological or human versus machine and everything. When you're doing an armor piece, do you bring in, like you had mentioned, kind of spraying a violet or a green or starting with an OD? If you're weathering a Sherman, are you using kind of some of those same techniques, or do you have a different way of approaching something that's made out of steel versus flesh?
Yeah, you can, for sure. Yeah, I have. I think, when you mix two colors that are opposite of each other on the spectrum, you're going to get a darker value. So like for yellow, the opposite color of yellow is a purple. So if you want to make a natural shadow instead of using black or a brown or something, you can mix purple with yellow. And if you spray a violet ink, and I think I tried that on the Panther as well, as I tried a violet ink in the shadows, it gives you a kind of a decent shadow value that's not really what you traditionally see, I guess. But yeah, you kind of got to, as with the figures, you kind of got to know what is the opposite color of the paint or the color that you're using. And when you use that opposite color, you know you're going to get a darker value on top of it. So combining the colors, I guess. Yep.
You ever do dioramas or vignettes?
Not as much as I used to, I guess. When I first started, that's kind of how I got into doing the armor and the figures. I did a few dioramas, but I haven't really done that. They just take so much time. Yeah, I wish I have ideas, and then we'll see if they come out. But yeah, no, I haven't really done any dioramas or vignettes. I think for amps here, I'm thinking of something I'm going to probably try to do as far as it may be a vignette or a diorama. I don't know what classification it'll be, but kind of have an idea what I may try to get to after Chicago for the amp show.
Yeah, I would think that you would probably take to it as good as you are at telling stories. I think it would kind of be natural. And then maybe in the vein of that question and your answer, you mentioned you like figures and you're kind of slow, but what are, if any, what are some subjects or some genres that maybe you're interested in that you haven't done before that maybe you'd like to kind of delve into if you have the time?
Well, I historically have always been really interested in the American Civil War, and I think there's the lack of figures for the American Civil War, quality figures out there. I know Alpine's done a couple, but I wish that producers would do more. I have a couple busts, I think, that are American Civil War, but I've always been interested in trying to find more stuff for the American Civil War. But yeah, World War II has always been one of the things I enjoyed doing. Paratroopers, 101st and 82nd Airborne. I think that's always been something that probably gets done to death, but I enjoyed doing those. But the American Civil War is something that interests me, and I just wish there was more figures for that from that history.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%, Scott. There's just not enough quality out there for that. I mean, you could do your own figures like Mr. Cohen, but yeah, but I mean, it's just that it's just not available, and it's something that needs, in my opinion, would be a great ad by any line.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the colors there are different than any other. I mean, are much different, and there's a lot of subject matter there, and sometimes I don't know, people just aren't as the Germans and the Americans in World War II are always popular. Yeah, and that's just what it is, and that's kind of where a lot of people start and stick. But then I mean, you go to the Chicago show and you see a lot of Napoleonics, and I don't know, I'm not that interested in Napoleonics, but the colors there, I mean, the people that paint that stuff, it's phenomenal, but I don't know one thing from it, so I'm not that interested in it. I just don't know anything about the histories. Maybe someday.
Yeah, it's interesting that people don't make like good quality, like, you would think cannons and horses and, and wagons and, all of the kind of things that would have been present in the Civil War, that those would, be a rich, fertile ground for consumers. But I mean, apparently not.
No, I don't really think so. I mean, I can't even guess any manufacturer that does a cannon. I'm sure there is in resin or some sort. I guess if you really dug into it, you'd find it. But
old school Verlinden, I think, right? That's about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And they've probably done a few Civil War figures as well. I know Shenandoah, I think I did Civil War figures, still do. I don't even know if they're still around. Good quality, larger scale figures. I mean, 16 scale figures. I know FDR Miniatures does a couple Civil War figures. I've done a couple of them in 75 millimeter, but I don't know. I wish I don't see enough Civil War stuff out there. I think, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can corner John Rosengrant at the Chicago show this year, and extend some influence and get something done.
Yeah, he's amazing, isn't he? He's the things he came out with a day or two ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. Wow.
The like you said, those figures he just came out with, like the Marine and the soldier in the long coat, it's just in European theater, just amazing. This stuff is just amazing.
Yeah, no, I know when he sculpts something for Alpine, I usually always get it. So for sure, his stuff is incredible. I always I'm always amazed by what he does. And then he incorporates it on a 16 scale tank or whatever, and it blows your mind. So yeah, he had a couple of things, I think, at Chicago too. There were one-off British officer, and I can't remember what else it was, but yeah, he does a lot of stuff for collectors, and those collectors sure are lucky, I'll tell you that. But beautiful thing, beautiful stuff.
Yeah, it's, just listeners, if you haven't been to the MMSI show, really encourage you to go. Some incredibly talented people like Scott, for instance, and other people. Well, I'm gonna wrap up my questions here and just kind of say, I asked you in the beginning kind of who your influences were. So, you just were speaking about John, and my next question was going to be, who are some people now that are producing work that when you see it at shows, it just makes you go, wow.
John, for sure. Doug Cohen is always impressive. He's always his use of colors and his figures and his ideas and his dioramas that he does blows you away. He's the nicest guy too. You can talk to him and see how he did this and how he did that. Doug's always been a great mentor, I guess, for the hobby, and I enjoy seeing him at every show. I don't know anything. I've never met Kirill, but his work. I mean, the young miniature bust that just came out, where the U-boat captain, how he painted the lighting effects on that. It's just, I don't know, figure painters these days are just pushing extremes and boundaries. It's hard to even think of how they get to that. But the U-boat captain or whatever it is from Young Miniatures, how he painted the lighting on that, like it's either sun up or sun down. And that Kirill is pushing boundaries every single time he paints a figure. And I was lucky enough to see some of his stuff at the World Expo when it was in Chicago back in 2017. I mean, that's the only time I've ever seen anything personally from him. But everything he paints is unbelievable. But
yeah, that was a great show, 2017. That was great to bring all the Europeans over and expose them to. I know a lot of US folks have, it's hard to get over there, and that was one opportunity to share. Scott, one of the questions I have is a tag along with Scott Gentry's, in the sense that, you talk about inspiration, but if, in the figure world, especially, I feel like the fantasy folks really lean into this. I've seen a lot of collaboration pieces where you have a sculptor and a painter, obviously vice versa. Is there anyone out there, and maybe you even hinted at it 2 minutes ago, that if you could collaborate with one person, who would it be? And then if you even have a subject in mind, what kind of subject or genre would that be?
Boy, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be fun to paint a one-off that John Rosengrant sculpted, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting when you see the collaborations like Eric Swinson, and I don't know who he did his piece with, that won Best Fantasy at World Expo. I don't know who sculpted it, but he painted the crap out of that one. That was beautiful. But I don't. That's a good question. I really don't know, John. A John Rosengrant piece. Hey, John, sculpt something for me. That'd be incredible to paint something that he did as a one-off, for sure.
Yeah, Civil War. Hint, hint.
There you go. Yeah, for sure.
That's really good, man. That's really cool. Well, I mean, this has been a great interview, guys. I've had a great time. I've learned a lot. I've got a big page of notes that I kept on taking from Scott. So, I mean, I really do appreciate you taking the time and talking with us. It's been fabulous. I can't, everything I've learned, I love the fact that you said, don't paint your eyes like you're looking forward, paint them to the side or up or down. I mean, thank God, because I can't, trying to get them square on is the hardest thing in the world to do for me. So, I mean, it's a fantastic recommendation. I appreciate that so much. Again, I just want to say thank you. It's been an honor. It's been great. And I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been wonderful talking to you. You guys, you're all going to SMC here?
Yeah. We're all gonna head over in October.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah. No, yeah, good. That'll be great. Have fun. Sounds like a great show. I mean, I know a couple of you guys have been there before, but no, that should be good. That would be fun.
Well, we will definitely be back to Chicago other times. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And just one more thing. I just want to wish, your Minnesota Twins luck. They're in third place right now, but they're playing the Rockies for the next couple of days, so they've got a really good chance.
I was going to say that they're going to keep winning.
Suck.
Well, they lost. They lost last night to the Rockies, though. So,
that's true.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of the 23 Rockies wins this year.
The team must have had COVID then, or something. They played blindfolded, or lost. Somebody owed their bookie some money, so they had to throw the game, for crying out loud.
They were saying there was 38,000 people in the stands or whatever. How did they get that many people there? At the Twins game, it's maybe 10,000 people there. And if they're that bad, how do they? I mean, there must be a lot of people that still are diehard Rocky fans.
I mean, I feel like the state of Minnesota drove over for tickets.
Oh, did they?
I mean, I will say that the ballpark is one of the most beautiful in the league. It's unfortunate that the team is the polar opposite.
No, I agree. Baseball's fun outside. Yeah, no, I mean, the Twins aren't that great. I mean, Detroit's running away with the division, but I mean, maybe there's a wild card chance. We'll see. But who knows? Yeah, but I don't know what the score is right now, but they're playing them. They're playing the Rockies right now, and I'll find out as soon as we hang up. But a big time diehard Twins and Vikings fan, of course. So
there you go.
Oh yeah.
One thing we didn't ask you is where can people see your work?
Just on Facebook. I don't do anything else. Hopefully that's the answer you're looking for, but just Facebook. Yeah, I don't do any of the other things. I don't know. Social. I don't even have a computer, man. I have a cell phone. That's all I have. So I don't have an iPad or an iPhone or whatever. I just have a phone, and that's kind of how I would like to take better pictures, but that's another story. But yeah, everything on Facebook.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the pictures of your work are good, but you really need to see this guy's work in person. I mean, being able to see Ascension in person and see Stitches in person, just your work is beautiful, and particularly artists like you, where you do a lot of really incredible blending and very, very subtle shading and use of color. It's really hard, I think, for a lot of cameras, even if you are a good photographer, to capture that without overexposing it. And so there's definitely something to be said for seeing your work in person.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah, and it's a labor of love. Figures will always be what I like to do the most, and I hope to keep. The thing with figures is, I always continue to grow. You always have to grow, and I enjoy seeing people that are getting into it from jumping into the dark side of figures and learning and just jumping in and practicing. It's always important to just practice, and it's not going to come right away, and it's never going to come. I mean, I'm still learning every single time I do a figure. Continue to practice, and don't be afraid to just do it. And don't be afraid to put colors on top of colors. Especially in the fantasy stuff, you can always take it, you can always cover it up and fix it. Acrylics are easy to fix. So just practice. That's the number one thing.
There you go. I think if you learn anything from this interview, that's great advice. So really appreciate that, Scott. Well, thank you for spending time. Thank you for, like I said, when we were judging, teaching me about how to look at faces and lighting and shading, and look forward to seeing you at a show again soon. And you take care.
Yeah, you guys too. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. This was a pleasure.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Scott for joining us for that interview, and let's move over to Jensen to talk about some upcoming shows.
Thanks, Scott. So, first of all, we have the Southern Maryland Scale Modelers presents PAXCon 2025 on October 4th, 2025 in Hollywood, Maryland. More details soon, and hopefully get one of the organizers on here for an interview. On Saturday, September 27th is the 24th annual Reno High Rollers Show located in the National Automobile Museum in Reno, Nevada. Grant and Scott went last year, and this is a great show apparently, by all accounts. Find all the details over at www.renohighrollers.com. George Ironman reached out and would like us to plug ArmorCon 2025, Friday, October 3rd, T25, I can speak, to Saturday, October 4th, 2025. It's at the Wyndham Southbury in Southbury, Connecticut. I'm starting to learn my states. It's an AMPS-based show, and the theme is Armored Animals. Also, it's important to note that Gundam and ground-based sci-fi builds are welcome at this show. And as you will hear later in this episode, Scale ACT 2025 will be held in Lynham on November 8th and 9th, and is the 25th anniversary show. More details later on in the show as we interview Peter Davis.
Awesome. Thanks, Jensen. Well, as a discussion point number 2, maybe just take a quick little dive into this. John Bryan, who's an incredible aircraft modeler, been on the show before. He sent out a little note about modeling rituals, and I kind of I kind of thought it was an interesting idea, but anyway, he said, as I embark on a new project, I'm reminded of all the little things I do which have become ritualized. These can crop up in any area of the hobby, and here are some of mine, and I'd like to hear about some of yours. And then he says, at the start of every project, I carefully go through all the sprues, removing all the bits I know I won't need. It will baffle people, I'm sure, but I actually love doing this. All the unused parts are then lovingly sorted into the correct compartment in my parts cabinets. He also doesn't use cutting mats, but covers his workspace with decorator's paper. And at the end of every project, this is cleared away and fresh paper is laid down. It's a chance to properly clean his whole workbench and make sure everything is in its proper place. This is also when the floor gets vacuumed, and he's avoided doing it during the project in case he's unknowingly dropped any parts. And he says, when I'm done with the decals, the leftover items are placed in a clear leaf binder, sorted by aircraft type. This sounds like John, totally. And then completed builds are meticulously logged on my mega Excel spreadsheet, which records all kinds of data in relation to the models. Currently, he has a list of all the aircraft that in principle could be in his collection, which he says 3,358 to be exact. And he's at about 10% of this that he's actually built. And then the last thing is, once the box of the kit is disposed of, he has a thing for hanging on to the instruction sheets, which also find their way into clear binders, never to be looked at again. So it sounds like John's got some really, really cool rituals that he does with every build. So I'm just going to kind of go around the group and see what rituals you have. JB, let's start with you. Do you have a ritual that when you're done with a build, it kind of marks the end of the project or maybe the start of a new project?
Great question. I think the ritual is cleaning the bench. That's one, like a deep sanitize and put everything back. Because as we all know, when you're working on a project, your bench gets smaller and smaller from all of the stuff that you're accumulating to support the project. Another thing is obviously just putting the model on the shelf. I think I think back to Sam Dwyer's. He's posted a few videos, and his kind of like ritual is he opens the door, he puts the model on the display case and closes the door, and that signifies kind of the end of a build. And I think that's a great ritual. I think to start, I'm not cutting sprues off that I don't need. I think for me, it's making sure the bench is clean. It's all around having a clean bench, I could say. But that's the biggest ritual, is just having the piece finished, putting that nameplate on and putting it on the shelf. That signifies the end of the build, and it feels pretty damn good. So that's my biggest ritual.
That's an important one. Aaron, you're a pretty organized guy. What do you do?
I was trying to think about this, of what rituals I have, and I do the kind of when I'm done, put the model on the shelf sort of thing. And then usually I let it sit there for a few weeks before I really look at it, so I can forget all the mistakes I've made on it. And when I look at it, then with a kind of fresh set of eyes, I look at the positives. So I have kind of made that into a ritual. Probably the most predominant ritual, I've got two I'll go in. The first one is one I do with every build, and that's I'll commit as I start a build to try something new, try new techniques, incorporate something that's in one of the multitude of books that's behind me right now. And then my ritual is to not do any of that and do exactly what I did on the last build. Pretty consistent about that. So I've got that going for me. But really the one thing I found, and I don't even know how or why I started this. I don't remember doing this when I was younger, but in the last few builds, I found as I get done cutting parts off a sprue, I tend to look at the sprue, and if there's say a corner of the sprue that there's no parts left on, I'm snipping that sprue off and tossing that away. So I'll start with a full, let's call it a rectangle sprue, and by the time I'm done, I have like just one little corner that has 3 or 4 parts on it still left, and that's all that's left. So I'm like reducing the amount of just junk that's cluttering up my bench, and I just have the small little parts. I've got to remember not to cut off the part that tells me if it's like sprue A, B, or C. But for some reason, I find that to be my way in my brain to kind of check off I'm accomplishing, like I've built so much and made so much progress. And that, for whatever reason, seems to be helpful and motivating to me. So.
You know, I do the same thing as I go along. I'll take a sprue, and if I can eliminate big sections, I cut them out and toss the the tree parts into the garbage and do that. But yeah, at the end of the project for me, I'm actually not too sentimental about the boxes or the instructions or anything. And I, for years, kept spare parts up as sprues, periscopes and hatches and all that and everything. And all that happened was I had boxes and boxes and boxes of unused parts. And finally, one day I just kind of tossed them because it was not really being all that productive. And so, yeah, I think I'm kind of a hybrid of Aaron and John. I just kind of clean everything up and toss the leftovers in the box and move the model to the case and kind of move on. Grant, what about you?
I did the same. I think when I'm done, I'm putting the plaque on the front or whatever on the front and putting it in the case and shutting the door, just like Sam and everybody else here. When I start, the only thing I really kind of do as a ritual when I start is that as I'm getting older, my eyesight is not the best as it used to be. So I take blue tape and take each sprue and I find the sprue number or letter. And then I just put the blue tape over the sprue and write the letter on there in blue tape. So it's A sprue, B sprue. So it's easier. It looks like, I know I'm showing this to the guys here, but it's easier to find them in a big pile of sprues that way for me. So that's just one of the things I do as a ritual as we go forward. I do get rid of stuff like you guys said. I cut sprues down as we go. That's about it.
So for me, no, I like to have fun. I can't be that anal. For me, a project's finished. Jabree's eyebrows raise, he doubts. No, so a project's finished for me when I've taken the final photos and they're uploaded on Facebook and the model's in the cabinet. That's it, done and dusted. Everything else to do with that build. I'll keep in decal sheets that have spurs on because always nice to have like little like stencils, decals for any reason. Keep the decals, bin the instructions, because if you need instructions, I can get the digital versions off Scalemates or usually a manufacturer website. Box is gone, don't need it. Sprues, they go, unless... Actually, nowadays I find myself less and less keeping spare sprues because they'll usually just contain like pioneering tools or fire extinguisher or spare wheels. It's like I can just 3D print those now. So I find myself just not keeping sprues either. That all goes. So yeah, my end of build routine is photos on Facebook, building cabinet, box destroyed. That's it, finished. Starting a build, it takes me so long to decide what build I'm going to do. I get to a point where I was like, right, I've picked it up and I just get on with it. There is no like regimented routine or what do you call it, ritual. It's just to try and get on with it. Try and make it as easy as possible. I know a lot of people do this. They'll snip all the parts off the sprue and put it in organizers. I physically can't bring myself to do that. Because I'm just like, right, okay, I know what number that part that was on the sprue. I don't know what number part that is now in the box. I get why people do it, but it just doesn't work for me. Just not my cup of tea. So no, just try and keep the build organized as easy as possible. Only snip off the parts I need when I need them, and try and follow the instructions as clear as I can. Because I used to have a really bad habit of jumping ahead in instruction books to do a bit that's a piece that looks more fun, and then it just completely destroy my flow of the build because I'd then be flipping back and forward in the instruction book. One thing I do now without fail, grow up, is I'll take a marker in my instruction book once I've done a step and I know every part of that step's done, completely cross off that piece in the instruction book and all the part numbers. That's probably the most ritualized thing I do and regimented thing I do. I just, it's unfortunately in my nature, I can't be that organized and that structured with stuff. The most organized thing I do every day is I wake up in the morning and I make my bed. Everything else is just kind of free for all. I enjoy life.
I do something similar where I'll highlight, like if I don't glue like two parts because they're really fragile, as I'm going through the instructions, I'll hit those part drawings in the instructions with a highlighter so I remember to go back and put them on later. But I don't know about you guys, but by the time I'm done, I usually toss the instructions because they're all like beat to crap because I build on top of my instructions. I don't know about how you guys do it, but they end up being what my parts are sitting on. So they're cut and glue and everything else on them and they're trashed. So, and as you said, you just go to Scalemates and refer to them again if you ever did. And I'll throw the boxes away, but it's so hard to throw a Tamiya box away because the box art is gorgeous. But I know I'm not going to do anything with it, so I do, but it still hurts. So
that's where I struggle with Edward because their boxes and the box art is just like I'm just glad they always release box arts now as like prints. It's like, okay, well, he's not gonna get that, but it feels criminal to do sometimes.
Well, listeners out there, thanks, first of all, John, for sending these in. Good luck with all those binders full of instructions and decals, and hopefully your space has a room for that. But yeah, no, if you guys have rituals that you do at the end of a build, post it in the group and send it out to John. He wanted to see what everybody else did, and I think it's a great discussion point.
Okay, as we start recording this, Scale Model Challenge is less than 90 days away. Let's talk about where each of us are with our entries for SMC. Oh, God, I can't believe this second. Be that close. All right, JB, you're first.
Yeah, I think at the start of the episode, I talked a little bit about it. Obviously pivoted from the 251, failing fast on that and learning that there's not much time left and I got to get something on the table. So it's over to Panther 131. I'll be painting the interior today, as mentioned earlier. I'll be going for a rusty, dirty look. I'm not too concerned because it's just going to have the little hatches to look through, and it's a burned out vehicle. It was hit with rockets and then shot at. So not too concerned there on interior. And then once I get that done, we'll button it up. I have a detail set from Academy, a bunch of 3D printed stuff, and the dot scheme. I got to give a shout out to Ken Childress. He provided me with the long out of production Uzi van der Rosen dot pattern templates that he used on his L70, and he had a little pieces left, so he cut me a slice. And I can use basically just layering them down the vehicle. So I don't need to cover the whole vehicle. I can just spray it, move the mask, spray, move, and work it that way. So that's one. I'm hoping to finish at least another figure wedge before I go, and then potentially a Warhammer figure. But that's it for me on SMC. I got to be heads down on 131 and super stoked for it.
Is that 131? Is that Piper's Panther? Was that?
Yeah,
I remember you talked about at the beginning. He's into the bunker and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was part of Piper's column when he was going. I think he turned left at L'Eglise and went up. I forget which river it is. I don't think it's the Amblève, but there's a bridge right near where it is, and they were ascending the hill to go in the town of Chenot where this 82nd Airborne was, and they were strafed by P-47s during that initial assault in I think the December 19th time frame. So there was no snow on the ground during that period of time during the battle, but that vehicle sat there for a while, and the house that it was destroyed next to is actually still there too. But it's really interesting. It's got the dot scheme that I just freaking love, and being there and going back to that location, and I'm going to take the model with me and hopefully get some then and now shots with the model.
Oh, cool.
There. I'm pretty excited. And like I said, I'm not going to do it fully stripped out after the war. I kind of want to do it. The configuration probably is, I don't know, maybe a month or two after it was officially destroyed, because AAA units moved into that area and a Bofors took at least 2 shots on it. And the photo I have only has 2 shots. And then the turret took some shape charge hits and probably another Bofors hit. But I don't want to do it like that because it's kind of stripped and it doesn't have it has character, but I think there's more character when it was initially shot at by the Bofors. So I'll be doing that and very excited. I gotta get moving on it. So
yeah, I'm with you there. Scott, how about you?
Yeah, just as I mentioned, working on my E25 every single day. Goal is to get it into primer by the end of the month. I think I'm on track, hopefully, knocking on wood. And once that's done, that gives me the month of August and September for painting and weathering and basing it and deciding how we're gonna do that. So just probably have 70 or 80 hours into the build at this point. Just really doing a lot of work on it, and just about finished with everything, just working on some final tools and accessory layouts and things like that.
That's great. I mean, like you said before, you kind of cornered the market on the E25. So you're going to need that big bench with all the stuff. So, all right, Jensen, you're up.
As I said at the start of the episode, like I wasn't panicking with enough time for SMC, I've added 4 aircraft to my list. But I'm going to start them later tonight. 2 P-51Ds and 2 BF-109 G10s. Just a beautiful aircraft. Doesn't help the fact that I've just put an Edward order in for another 200 quid's worth of stuff. Got them to do. Very manageable. I'm actually I'm very confident with those projects. Again, just aircraft, I flow better with them. Once it's all buttoned up, I don't know why the workflow just naturally works. I don't know why. So I've got them. Another good shout out to Kenneth Childress. He messaged me the other day because on the last episode I mentioned the Schwimmwagen plinth seen I want to do. It's only small. But that's the intention. I want a lot of small projects rather than one big one. And he sent me his build. He gave me a lot of advice on that kit. It was like, it's pretty much, you can slap it all together, get it all painted and stuff afterwards. So he's done a really beautiful build of that model. So I really appreciate the advice for that. I've got all the stuff I need for my builds. It's starting to feel a bit more like the Firefly probably isn't going to make it to SMC. I'm accepting that now, so I don't, one, stress myself out about it, and two, try and rush a kit that has got a lot of aftermarket and detail to go into it. A bit like JB might just be like, okay, amps 26. That I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not going to beat myself up about it, because what's the point? So yeah, this year it's just going to be a plethora of small projects rather than try and put all my eggs in one basket with one large one. But yeah, I feel a lot more confident now. I've reestablished what I think is achievable in the time we have. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
That's good. That's good. I can't wait to see the aircraft. You are really good at aircraft. For myself, my pod is almost done. It'll be done soon. So that's done. I'm working on a secondary project. Don't know what it is. I've got several ideas, which is killing me right now. And I've got to I got to do something. It's more likely going to be a vehicle, I think. I don't know what scale or what type yet, but I'm just kind of driving myself for that, just to push this one more. So that'll give me one or two figures, my pod, and I think in a vehicle. So a lot of small stuff myself, except for the pod. So that's where I'm at. I'm cringing every time I see how many days we have left, and I leave a week and a half before those 90 days. So that cuts my time down even more, like you guys. So we are definitely. And doesn't registration start next month, in a week or two?
Yeah, in about a week. So a couple of days after this episode drops, registration will begin. Yeah,
so we're in August then. So that's where we're at, everybody. So grab something and hold on. It's going to be interesting. All right, I'm going to move over to JB for the second interview.
Great, yeah. So the second interview is with Peter Davis from Scale Act 2025. Scott and I had the opportunity to sit down with him and learn more about the show. So sit back, relax, and we'll see you on the other side.
Well, welcome in, everybody, to the Plastic Posse podcast. We are joined today by a good friend from Down Under, Peter Davis. How you doing, Peter?
Yeah, good boys. How are we all going today, and all the listeners?
Going really, really well. It's a Friday night, so we are loving that. And we just asked Peter how things were in the future on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's about mid Saturday morning here, so yeah, about 11:30 a.m. Obviously, yeah, day ahead of the rest of the mainland America. Yeah.
Very, very nice. I also have my good friend John Bonani with us. How you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing well. TGIF indeed, and super stoked to talk to Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the sharp-eyed among our listeners will note that it's been about a year that we have since we've spoken to Peter last. But let's, before we get into the event, the big event, we talk about that, which is really, really cool and exciting. But you know, Peter, other than kind of administrative functions and getting things ready, what have you been up to? What's your bench look like? How's the last almost year been treating you?
Yeah, last year's been going pretty well. Yeah, can't complain. Yeah, on the bench, we're on the bench at the moment. The new Tamiya H39, I think like a lot of people, and a good friend of mine, Sam Dwyer, which has got his finished already. But like he seems to smash them out, but so that's all right. And yeah, probably the new Hong Kong models, 32nd scale Boston as well. I've been quietly working away on that as well in Australian markings, the new Australian boxing that came out about, probably a couple of months ago now. So yeah, kind of do a little bit of everything. So I think it's good to, diverse your modeling skills, which makes you a better modeler. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard good things about that HK kit. Doesn't that have like oil canning and some really, really nice detail on it?
Oh yeah, like the pillowing effect on the panels and everything. It's fallen together so far as well. It's been it's a really great kit. So I think they've downscaled them, some of them into 48 now as well. So those that don't want to build a 32nd scale one, they like usual with Hong Kong models, they seem to downscale most of them to 48 as well.
Yeah, that's really nice to get a little bit wider appeal going. Where are you going to put that? Where are you going to put it when you're done? Because that's a pretty decently sized model.
It is. I think at least one cabinet that should fit in. If not, I will get a Perspex sort of bubble made for it like I did with my Vesda 172nd scale C130 that I finished a few years back now.
Oh, that's very cool. Is that one you think you'll have that one done, or the H39 for that matter, for the show we're going to talk about?
Definitely, yeah.
Get them out on the table. There you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah. I think there'll be a couple of H39s there this year by the looks of it. Got to finish the 48 scale kinetic Harrier before Scalac as well. So there's a bit of a group build with a few of us. Another friend of the show, Clayton Ockerby, and a few of the other guys here in Australia. We're trucking. Yeah, we kind of pick a subject for Scalac each year, and also the Illawarra, which is Wollongong, which is another show in New South Wales that runs each year as well. And they're about 6 months apart, so we pick. There's about the group's grown to about 10 people, I think now, and yeah, we all pick one sort of subject, chuck them on the table, and just a bit of fun. So.
How is that kit? How is the kinetic carrier?
I haven't done too much to it other than I've started on the cockpit. Some of the guys nearly finished. They haven't had too much trouble. There's plenty of people out there who've already built it now and give you tips and tricks on the few little gremlins that it has to get it to fit better, which I've printed off and I've got it all there to follow along when I get to that stage. But I've just finished grinding out the interior detail and stuff and managed to get the Ares cockpit to fit. So which is a lot better detail than the kit one. So that's about as far as I've got on that because I'm a bit focused on the H39 and the other one at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. H39 is I guess that's your banger of the group, right? Your slammer build of the
take and bake
that you're working on. Yeah.
A couple of guys got ahead and finished theirs though, so I've kind of put it on pause for a little bit as well. So I'm waiting for the new, I think it's Blast models from France, and they've done an interior set. So I've got that in the post. It's on the way. So I'm planning to, dump that into it as well and have the hatches and stuff opened up to make mine a bit different to some of the other ones. They're probably going to do an IDF early Israeli one to mix it up as well to be a bit different from the German and the French paint schemes. But, yeah.
Nice. That's the one I want to do. It's actually
nice. Yeah.
It's very cool. I didn't realize they had so many. They got a couple, and yeah, very interesting. Our friend Pat Brown, who's our resident Israeli expert, had one built up, and they're cool. It's like you said. You typically see them in either tritone German. I think they were in Dunkelgrau as well, and then obviously French.
Yeah.
But I think the Israeli version's pretty cool. That's neat. I'm glad you're doing that one.
No, I am. It's got obviously the English antenna mount on the left rear of the fender and stuff. So there's a few little minor changes to make to it, and just be a bit different to the majority of people who probably go down the German or the French route. And it's got interesting history. It's the first one of the first tanks, obviously the Israeli Defence Force operated when they were forming the Air Army. So. Yeah,
and I think they got them covertly from France. They were smuggled in as tractors or something. I think the story was.
Yeah. They were on a ship. They came in on a ship that didn't have any facilities to unload them, and then there was another ship that had a crane on it, and they had to bribe the captain of the second ship to unload them. So. Yeah.
That's cool. I don't think there's that many mods to it, at least from like exterior looking to it's kind of a simple conversion to an Israeli vehicle.
Yeah, it just depends how far you want to go down the rabbit hole. I guess like there's the tooling, like when I tooling the tools, like your shovels and your spades and stuff. They look to have European, like English or American ones sort of fitted, not the
French ones.
The ones that come with the kit. So, and mounted at slightly different locations. And it looks like I said, they fitted an English radio antenna on the left fender. So
very cool.
How do you display your armor? Are you a base guy or you just?
Yeah. I think you just got to these days. It makes them look so much better. Just a small piece of terrain or nothing. Doesn't have to be any action or anything. Just kind of frames it nicely, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a base guy myself. So yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, without further ado, then let's get into the show. All right. As I said, without further ado, let's talk about Scale ACT 2025. Man, it just sounds like this show just keeps getting bigger and better. And let's see, November 7th and 8th, correct?
8th and 9th. Yeah.
Okay.
So 7th is Friday, though. So there'll be, obviously set up and all that sort of stuff happening on the Friday. Yeah. Then the main events, Saturday, Sunday, 8th and 9th of November. In Canberra, Australia.
That's awesome. And it's going to be in, I think, the same place, right? Thoroughbred Park?
Yeah, Thoroughbred Park in Lynham. So it's pretty close to the centre of town where heaps of accommodation, plenty of food and pubs, clubs, all that sort of stuff. So it's a good location, easy to get to. Both the main highways in and out of Canberra pretty much go straight past it. We've got, an airport, all that sort of stuff. So it's, easy accessible, and we're looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
No, that sounds great. So, in terms of kickoff here in the United States, I'd like to say we have like a soft launch, almost like a day before the show. So the Saturday and Sunday is the main event. Friday, people keep rolling into town. Is that kind of the same norm for this show? Do you see people arriving a little earlier, having some informal social functions? Like, what's that type of environment? And if people wanted to join in, what pub is the pub to go to?
Yeah, so glad you raised it. Last couple of years, we've actually, I should probably start with the first part of the question. So our show, compared to the rest of the events held in Australia, is quite unique. So being in Canberra, it is the capital, but it's a small population, a bit like sort of, a small state like Washington in the middle of a bigger area sort of thing, like your capital. So while we, have, a large, vibrant sort of model club, most of our entrants come from interstate and across Australia, unlike most other events around Australia where most of their attendees come from the local area. So in saying that, what has it allowed to happen is it's turned into like one sort of big weekend of fun and catching up with people you don't see often. And what we have done the last couple of years now is we just nominate a pub each night, just where, some sort of, basic sort of food and cold beverages of people's choosing. And that's really growing. Like the first year was probably about 15 to 20 of us each night. And then last year, I think we averaged, Friday, Saturday and Sunday night, about 50, out of the 200 odd contestants, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in terms of, when you get into the formal event, people start showing up. How many models do you typically expect to be on the table?
So last year we set a show record of 798 models.
Oh, damn, that's awesome.
Yeah. And we're probably expecting similar this year. So we're probably looking around 800 models on display for the competition, and then we'll have club displays and other sort of things happening as well. So probably another couple hundred models around the room as well in those club displays.
That's awesome. So I guess I'm always curious. I've never gone to a show in Australia. I've been to shows in a lot of other places in the world. Curious in terms of the demographics in modeling genres. So in the United States, predominantly it's aircraft, then armor, and then, so on, probably auto and whatnot. Like, is there a dominant genre in Australia?
Yeah, I would say it's aircraft, followed by armor, then auto, sort of civilian vehicles. We are seeing obviously an increase with the younger ones with Bandai, so the Gundam and sort of stuff, and also with Lincoln Wright coming each year now to the event. The Mark, that Japanese sort of stuff that he's into, has its own special category, and that's growing each year as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a good diverse cross of all genre, right from your traditional sort of thing when people think of modeling, which is obviously aircraft and tanks and stuff, to a sci-fi and all, your Mark stuff and Gundam. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it sounds very similar to the traditional shows in the United States where you have armor and aircraft dominating, but there are the typically underrepresented categories getting a lot of attention these days. And I think it's due in part to great people like Lincoln Wright promoting the brand and, welcoming those communities into the org. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
You had mentioned group displays. Can you expand on that a little bit? Is it SIGs, like special interest groups, and a group of people from different parts of the country coming together and displaying a certain topic, or is it clubs, or is it both? What kind of displays can people expect at the show?
Yeah, so some of the other local sort of hobby clubs, so we've got Task Force 72, which build remote control 72nd scale ships.
Oh, cool.
So those guys will come in. Yeah, will come along with a couple of their ships they've worked on, finished on, or happy to put on display. We will be having kids build table where they'll be able to build a small Gundam robot for free and take it home. We will also be having our a ACT Scale Modeler Society display. Last year it was the 50th anniversary display, which went well. This year being the 25th anniversary of Scale Act, that'll be the theme for our club display this year. So it'll be 25 years of our competition sort of thing wrapped up on a couple of tables with some videos and photos over the last 25 years, which is pretty cool, I think. We will have a couple of automotive clubs turning up over the weekend too. So sort of like Australian muscle cars, motorbikes, GT sort of, your Porsches and all that sort of stuff over the weekend as well out the front, just for more visual sort of stuff there, which will, obviously, keep the car guys very happy. And I've just missed my list here. Yeah, so it's probably, and the model shipwrights, which are mostly focused on like your wooden ships, but a couple of them do plastic ones as well.
That sounds like a really broad-based like spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested. I mean, obviously, congratulations on 25 years on this show, which is really, really great. I realize it's probably not just you. You probably had some friends who helped.
This whole army of people behind me, and the main guy that has ran the main show organizer that has ran all 25 of them is stepping down this year, which is probably a good time for him to have a rest, and a new guy's been shadowing him this year for the setup of this one, who will take over, Mike Reeves, who has ran all 25 of them, is stepping down and still wants to be involved, but doesn't want to be the responsibility for the chief organizer.
Yeah, sounds like he's done his bit, right?
Yeah,
that's quite an accomplishment. Yeah. Yeah, I know. In addition to some of the things you've already talked about, your website says that you've got modeling goods and books for sale, but it also mentions a swap and sell. So maybe can you talk about those two things?
Yeah, definitely. So we've had 25 local traders and outlets confirmed. So there'll be plenty of traders and retailers there for people to burn their cash through, as well as swap and sell. And we run our swap and sell a bit different to some. So the club runs it, so people don't have to sit there behind their own table and sell their own stuff. That does come at a slight commission, so which the club keeps. So we're doing them a favour by selling the stuff for them, so they can go out and enjoy the show and wander around and stuff. And that's how that'll work. But there will be some changes to that this year. We are bringing a number of software systems in across the board because of how big the show is getting. So swap and sell will be, you'll register for swap and sell. So if you're bringing kits down to sell, you'll register through this software system. You'll print out a small barcode, literally like a shop then. So a little barcode will go on your kit. You chuck in the swap and sell, and then that'll allow huge admin task of the volunteers that run it to literally just scan and just like running a little shop, essentially scan a barcode. People can pay with FBOS or cash instead of just cash like last year or previous years. And then that will obviously, it's mostly going to help us in the back end with admin, which is just getting too big for the team that runs it. So, but the change that the customers or the front end people need to be aware of is that it's, an online registration process like normal, but they'll have to just print those barcodes off and affix those to their items they're selling.
That's a really interesting approach. I really like that. It sounds like it is really beneficial for all that are involved in that process.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to it. We had a trial run of it at the club swap and sell that we ran a month ago, and it went really well. So we're excited to see that in action with the bigger events. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad you kind of brought up software. Let's like to get into, a little bit about your competition and how that works, with categories and levels, and then what kind of judging you use. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so last year we moved across to the open system. So and then broken down into skills. So we've got, apprentice, standard, and masters. So, and there's on the website, you can jump on there and you'll see a description of what each of those sort of levels entail. So if you're wondering what level you fit into, there's a description on there under the competition part of our website. So in that, we then, obviously it's a sliding scale. So obviously it's going to be it'll be easier for rookies to get gold, silver, bronze than it will for someone in master. And it's to a standard. So, obviously in masters, if you're getting a gold, that model's nearly perfect or should be pretty much perfect, as opposed to rookies where, there might be a few more minor mistakes to be allowed to issue a gold. And then on top of that, we have People's Choice, which is pretty much like, a vote from the peers and members of the public attending, so they can vote for their favorite model sort of thing. And then we also have Best of Show. and then best of for each subject. So best tank, best aircraft, best, sci-fi model, etc. through the genres. Then, like every year, we have our special sort of categories which we change each year. So this year, the Kitty Hawk Cup, which is we've picked the Tamiya 72nd scale F-35 range. So it's an out of the box sort of build, and everyone's building. We'll be building, or those that wish to, obviously, we'll be entering one of those for this year. And Sentinel Shield is the Toyota, I think, or Toyota 148 scale Panther kit, which is quite nice. And then the special car category, which is slipped my mind, which is not good. But yeah, and the Grail subject, which is the sinking of the Bismarck. So and what that one is the 1/700th scale is the scale limit, and any ship, vessel, or aircraft that was used during the battle, of the sinking of the Bismarck.
That sounds like a lot of great categories that people can, enter in as sort of a special focus subject. Since you've moved to the open system, how have your customers, your guests, how have they responded, and how do you feel about it? How's it worked?
Yeah, so last year was the first time, and we were expecting some teething issues on the front end. And as I think we had Sam on with me as a bit of a wrap up last year. He was a front end user of it all, and he said it went quite well. Us in the back end was very much the whole duck on water thing, legs 100 miles an hour in the background, and it was a lot. So essentially the wrap up of Scalac last year, there was 2 key areas identified that were must fixes for the show to keep going, which was the software update for Swap and Sell, and then software for the judging. So we explored Emperor, and Bart spent a lot of time with us, and we really thank Bart for his effort in letting us have a play with that and all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, it's obviously set up for SMC and the other events that use it, and I guess we're just not big enough for something like that exactly yet. And we will, so in saying that, we've got a couple of, like I said, being in Canberra, we've got a lot of intelligent guys that work for government organisations in IT, etc. And obviously a couple in the club have been liaising with one of our friends from Illawarra, Scott. A very good IT guy, and he developed something for the Illawarra show this year. And over the last couple of months, they've been working together to fine tune that, and we can make it for how we need it. And we're really excited for that to be implemented this year, which will happen. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. So, and I love the fact that you guys are reviewing your show and looking for opportunities to improve, looking for for ways for your show to evolve and improve, which is really, really terrific. And I'm sure that shows in the final product. Last year we talked about, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was saying, with feedback, that's something we do strive. So we do take all feedback serious, and there will be a number of changes based on people's feedback last year. Simple things like more seating, etc. But and we'll do each year we do everything we can to accommodate that feedback for the following event. So yeah, people should see changes based on feedback from last year as well.
That's excellent. Last year we talked about how the theme of your show, or the sort of the reputation of your show, is the friendliest model competition in Australia. And I think that obviously takes a long time to get a moniker like that and a culture like that. And so what are some of the things that you and your committee will work on that kind of double down on that concept, on that culture?
I think it's grown over the years. Even before a club's been here for 52 years now, so it's been here longer than I have been. But yeah, the club's grown over the years, and I think just like our life members, we've got about 10 of them which have been heavily involved with the club for most of that 50 years. Probably kudos goes to them for developing that over the years, and me coming on as president 4 years ago, continuing that, and with it, with my committee and the subcommittees, is just been sort of pushing on that foundation and pushing it forward further. And it's just, it's like being approachable, trying to accommodate everything we can when people ask. being, jumping in and helping and stuff, being respectful, encouraging, modelers of all ability. Yeah, it's just, and I think like with traders and stuff appreciate the weekend, like, when they rock up to set up and stuff, a bunch of our members will run over and help them unload their truck and van and stuff. And yeah, I guess it's just developed from that, and we've just kept it sort of going. So it's been, a lot of feedback people get when they come is, we're accommodating where we can be, and and we're always smiles on the faces of the guys, walking around as the organisers, all that sort of stuff. So it makes for a really warm environment for the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So a quick question. You had mentioned Lincoln Wright coming. I saw a couple other banners. Can you talk about Calvin Tan and what that presence looks like?
Yeah, so Lincoln Wright will be there. Obviously, a big name through Asia, especially in the Mac world. He's moved back to Australia a couple of years ago, and we're very fortunate now to have him as a regular 4-scale act. Calvin Tan will be attending this year for the first time. We're still working out exactly how we're going to incorporate Calvin into the weekend. More information will come out about that shortly. Obviously, Calvin, most people listening to the podcast would know who Calvin is. He's, a world-renowned figure painter, especially his 35th scale stuff's just amazing. And we'll be very fortunate enough, to have him come down to our event and pass those skills on to people over the weekend. In addition to that, AK from Spain are coming down this year. So Carlos,
great.
Yeah, so Carlos from the Southeast Asia rep for AK is coming, along with, world-renowned Spanish modeler Ruben Gonzalez.
Cool. Ruben's awesome.
So Rubes is coming down as well. He's going to do 2 demos over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We're still locking that down, but I think we're going to, obviously, his groundwork stuff is great. So looking at something to do with vegetation, I think, and some basic stuff on weathering of vehicles.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So it's probably the big names that people sort of know around the world will be attending. But I guess, we've got some pretty good Australian modelers now that are well known out there as well now. So Sam Dwyer, we can't get him behind the bench this year because he's not 100% sure if he can make it due to some work commitments. But Clayton Ockerby from Workbench Hobbies, Clayton will be there doing demos. Lucas Kasuba, and a few other, Gary Wickham, very good aircraft modeler. So the local talent, it will have, Australia's best modelers doing demos as well as some of these guys from overseas, which will make a good sort of wraparound.
That sounds awesome. So in terms of the venue itself, do you have breakout rooms for these, or will they be on the main floor?
We are going to have everything on the lower floor for the main show, traders, and the swap and sell. Swap and sell was upstairs last year, but we just didn't feel the room was a good fit. So we've moved that to another sort of breakout room downstairs to the rear of the venue, which there'll be plenty of signs and stuff, but the swap and sell people will sniff out anyway. But for the demos, there will be a breakout room for those upstairs, and they will be, done to a good standard. So there'll be, cameras and stuff, a couple of TVs either side of the presenter so people can see the presenters mic'd up. So that, it's quite well run by the team that set that up. Yeah, and it's recorded, so for longevity sort of thing. So on our YouTube channel, we chuck those up. They're not as polished as some people's stuff, where the guys that do that are still learning. But it's sort of like a sterile, sort of quiet environment where people can focus on the presentation. Yeah,
that's awesome. So one of the people I forgot to mention, Qatari is going to be there as well.
Yes, Qatari will be attending this is their first time at Scale Act. They also have 2.
Oh, that's great. I was saying that's awesome.
Yeah. So they're attending. A couple of members of the team will be there, potentially 3. And we also have some news for them attending, but we've got a hold on that for now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have their new 109 ordered, or I should say, I picked it up during our 48 and 48 fundraiser. So I'm very excited to get that.
Oh, nice.
There's been a lot of great pieces out there. I saw Chris Waka, obviously Samo from the Geeks. Like, there's some great. Especially Chris's. Holy cow.
Chris Warho.
Yep, exactly.
He's insane.
You need to get him to go to the show.
Like I said, we'd love to have anyone to come down. It's a great time of year. It's warm. November's warm. It'll be getting cold over there. By the time it's November in the US. So yeah, we'd love to have anyone come down. So yeah, Sam's finished one and nearly a second one. So
you're right. Yeah. Sam's done one too.
The kit looks amazing. some really cool finish ones.
Yeah, I think he was the first actually out of everybody to finish one.
I'm not sure. I know they sent a couple of pre-releases around. I'm not sure who got across the finish line first, but Sam's is definitely a great looking model for
Oh yeah.
To get a pre-release one over the line. But, yeah.
It's a great release too to do that K model. That's a great selection, and it seems like that team at Kotari is really kind of learned some lessons maybe from the Wingnut Wings as far as product selection, and it just seems like they're just really, really crushing these selections for the kits that they're making.
Yeah, I think a lot of thoughts going into it. Chatting to the team that run Qatari, and I think the next couple of weeks they're sitting down to have a planning session to nut out the next 12 months for Qatari. So I think once that is done, we'll see some more news. So.
Yeah, that's man. It just those guys are doing great work, and Scott on the Geeks was talking about that 109, saying how there's no photo etch, there's no resin because you don't need it. It's everything you need is in polystyrene in the kit.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we sort of dive back into some the last minute particulars, Peter, what would you say if somebody, whether they're in Australia or they're overseas like we are, what would you say to them if they're kind of considering coming to Scale ACT 2025? Why should they come and spend the weekend with you?
It's a whole weekend of fun. I'll say that's the main aim of the game is to have fun. The reason I get up and put so much effort into, and the team, to try and put on the best show we can every year, is literally just the smiles, the laughing, and the enjoyment that an event like this brings people. Because, like I said, you don't know what people are going through. People have a tough time, but if we can put a good weekend on, and that's what we strive to do. And we've been doing that the last few years. And it's just been not just a model show now. It's like I said, it's a whole weekend of fun. People are catching up after the day, having a beer, having a feed, catching up, laughing, It's just the whole weekend of fun. The other thing is, with Canberra being the capital, we have a lot of national attractions as well. So you can really make a good couple of days of it with the Australian War Memorial, the Australian National Museum, the National Library, Parliament House, National Art Gallery. There's so many attractions. So you can bring the family out. Don't have to just come by yourself. Bring the family out. Plenty of things in Canberra from the sea. There's the National Zoo's here too, so they can catch up and check out of plenty of the Australian wildlife in a safe from a safe distance. As much as
that's important.
I don't know how. Yeah, I seen a post the other day, and people from America are like, "Don't go down to Australia, everything's going to kill you." But I was like, as the person kind of went, "Well, we don't have 100-kilo bear or 200-kilo bears, and and all these other sort of things. So there's some pretty deadly stuff over there as well. But I think it's just some kind of reputation. I think maybe the croc hunter or someone's given us, but it's plenty. It's just like I said, it's a great weekend. There's plenty in town for you the weekend of for the whole family. So pretty accessible. It's only a couple of hours from Sydney. So if you flew into Sydney, being the international airport, you can get a train down. It's a couple of hours on a train. You can hire a car, fly, get a connecting flight, and fly down. Yeah, if anyone is wanting to come from overseas isn't sure, questions about visas, tourism stuff, or whatever to get in, feel free to email me at president@actsms.asn.au, and if I can't help you, someone from the team definitely will. We'll have someone that will have expertise in that area to help people out.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. Yeah, lots of things that make a show perfect. You want to feature the show, obviously, and the show sounds amazing, but also where it's right in the middle of lots of museums, lots of great places to eat. You mentioned the zoo. It just sounds like a really, really great place to travel and make a week out of it, which is terrific.
Yeah, it's all, like I said, most of the accommodation is in the central part of Canberra, and most of the attractions are there as well. So it's a lot of the stuff you can literally go for, and being November, it's a bit warmer. You can literally walk between most of them, or very short sort of Uber and taxi rides. If you haven't got a vehicle, it's not, it's very, it's not like visiting another part of, New South Wales, and you want to see all the key attractions, and you probably need to spend weeks because you've got to travel, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to get to one of them. So
Right.
everything's very centralized in a small area and easy, easy accessible. So.
All right. So let's talk about specifics once again. So 8th and 9th November. And what are your hours on those 2 days?
So 10:30 on Saturday till 4 p.m. and Sunday will be 10 till we'll probably start the presentation around 3 p.m. and then obviously after that people can head off. So.
Excellent. And it's once again at Thoroughbred Park, which is in Lynham.
Yep. Thoroughbred Park, Lynham. Yeah, the 8th, November 8th and 9th. Like I said, 25th anniversary, and it's going to be, expecting 800 competition entries roughly. And it's going to be, like I said, great weekend. Strongly, recommend to come down, and like I said, we'll do everything we can to accommodate and put on a great weekend.
With the seminars and the way that you guys have grown, I'm going to make a prediction here, John. I'm going to say they get way more than 800. I'm going to say you guys push 1,000 this year.
Be great.
We would, like I said, like if we keep growing each year, it'd be nice. But like the judging team would kick me, but I think we're working on that. The guys have started a judging program at the start of the year to increase the amount of more sort of qualified judges we have on hand, so we can won't have that sort of hassle of like we kind of did last year. So, but no, if we crack more than 800, it would be fantastic. But at least 800 because that's what we landed on last year. We'd hope to at least reach the same sort of milestone.
Yeah, I think you're being humble, but make sure you get some of those new associate judges trained up in advance there.
Yes, yeah. No,
so what is it?
A big push from the local podcast here, the On the Bench boys are pushing a hashtag 1,000 for Scale Act or whatever it is. So so it's obviously those boys will be attending as well. They'll be there over the weekend to lasso and wrangle people in for a combo and a chat throughout the weekend like they do and put a show episode together. So they will obviously be there as well. A few other things too I need to probably quickly mention is we're very fortunate this year. ACT government's on board and they've given us a grant for advertising. So that is huge. So we had a huge amount of local advertising now available for us to advertise the event on. So that's to probably just increase foot traffic from the local community, which obviously helps, bring awareness to scale modeling, which is great. People might not realize how vibrant it is, and they might have done it as kids and all that sort of stuff. And now that their kids might have moved out of home, which is what we see a lot, is people looking for a hobby again and, lure a few more people back in that way, or get kids involved, which is, also good because we want to get them away from their iPads and stuff, which is not always good for their, their sort of, motor skills, fine motor skills and whatever. I think that was the key thing. We'll surely be putting out 100 limited edition Scale Act 2025 coins, which we'll be doing through a hidden bid. So people can't see the current bids on them, but they can bid on any coin number. So from 0 to 100, and they'll be engraved. And the front will be the 25th anniversary logo, which we did a competition for earlier in the year. And I think we received about 11 designs. And the winner, Scott Gerard, one of our members, designed that logo, and that'll be in full color on one side and then engraved on the back sort of thing. And then I think that's all the points the team's given me to cover off on. So, and just like I said, if you want to know more information, we've got three main sort of sources. So we've got the ACT SMS Facebook page. We now have a dedicated Scale Act Facebook page, which is just Scale ACT. And then obviously the website, which is www.actsms.asn.au, or you can email the Scale Act team if you want any questions about the event specifically, which is scaleact@actsms.asn.au. Or if you got sort of higher end questions about the club or PR sort of stuff, come to myself, which I mentioned before, which is president@actsms.asn.au.
Excellent. And what are your entry fees and competition prices?
Yeah, so entry fees for the general public is $10 Australian dollars or $20 Australian dollars for a family, and that's a weekend pass. The competition entries will go up slightly to $5 a model, $5 Australian dollars a model. And that obviously is a cover off because obviously we give out coins, medallions for gold, silver, bronze, which are they look quite cool. Obviously, they're not the cheapest things to produce. But also, in addition to that this year as well, those that come this year enter the competition, two things actually. They will get, those that are lucky enough to get a gold, silver, bronze coin will get a 25th anniversary stamped coin this year. So like a little bit of an extra bit of memento over the standard coins we normally issue. So it'll be a special coin for the medallion coin for the gold, silver and bronze this year with that engraving. And they will get a contestant's entry pass this year, which is plastic, which will have a design on the front. We're going to change that each year so they become like a little bit of a memento or collector's item as well. On the back of that, we'll have a QR code, and there's going to be several traders that are going to offer discount to competition entrants. So 5-10% off or something like that, potentially more. And they will have a QR code on the back of their contestant pass, which they can scan, which will tell them what traders are participating. And in addition to that, the program for the weekend, so timings for presentations and like when the demonstrations are on with the guys upstairs and all that sort of stuff, all the key timings.
Man, that sounds really, really terrific. I like that integration with your traders. That's a nice touch. But man, a world-class slate of presenters doing demos and seminars for you. It sounds like it's just going to be an awesome, awesome weekend, Peter.
Yeah, appreciate it. I think we're looking forward to it. I'm getting excited. A lot of hard work's gone into it across the board. Like I said, the Scalax subcommittee, there's probably 5, 6, 7 people on that, that literally just for 12 months of the year are just doing Scalax work, which obviously report to the main committee, which I sit on. And then obviously various other sort of subcommittees too that help sort of cross over with Scalax as well, like the IT subcommittee, etc. So there's a big team of 15 to 20 people that are put in over 12 months, consistently. And obviously the club really comes together on the weekend too. So the whole membership really does get involved. Can't put that down at either like the, volunteer hours, manning the front door, helping with judging, marshalling, wandering around just so in a high vis vest. So if people have a question where something is, they've got someone identifiable to ask for help, which we can't thank our membership enough either, the general members. So.
That's great. Sounds like a wonderful show. I just need to buy a ticket to the Southern Hemisphere. You
have to come on down, John, because as I said, I'm sure plenty of people that'll be there anyway. So.
Yeah, I looked at tickets just a minute ago. I can get Air Canada and then Qantas for $1,200 from Denver. Now the time is another question, but that's not that expensive. So
okay.
John lives in a magical place where airfare is very, very reasonable.
Ah, right. Lucky him.
Denver's a crazy place. I'm very lucky. But no, in all seriousness, Scott and I we're planning to be there. I don't know when, but we're definitely planning to take a trip down. This show sounds awesome. You have a lot of wonderful, guests and special guests and people supporting it and everybody in between. So we'd love to make it down, and we're grateful that you took time to talk to us about it and share the love about the show. And we can't wait to see what gets entered, and we'll certainly promote it at SMC when we're there too. Well, I'm sure we'll run into some people that are going down south. But this was great. Thanks so much for Peter for stopping by.
But no drama, and obviously thanks to you guys for allowing me the time to jump on and promote the events. Yeah, I hope to, like there's a lot of Australian listeners, so obviously it'll resonate with those that will be attending. But like I said, it's more than welcome. Yeah, anyone traveling from overseas, we'd love to have you as well. Yeah,
like John said, man, we'd love to get down there hopefully sooner rather than later. Just a last note, as somebody that does a show much smaller than yours at this point, but just appreciate all your contributions, Peter, and your board, and it sounds like a great group of people that you work with for your contributions. This sounds like a wonderful event, and I think for me, you check all the boxes, and obviously best of luck to you and your team for Scale ACT 2025.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I think that was a great interview. Obviously, anybody down there, down under, try and make it to the show. It just sounds like it's a great event. And even as opposed to last year, The lineup of seminar presenters is astounding, amazing. It sounds like a great venue. Hopefully, I can get down there soon. It's definitely high on my list. And as JB said in the interview, airfare, at least out of Denver, doesn't seem too bad to get down there to that. So best of luck. Anyways, well, Jensen, over there in the UK, what time you got?
Well, the time right now is 7:05. And I think it's important our listeners hear this. Hi, I'm Jensen Taylor, the local British heartthrob of the Plastic Posse podcast, and I'm here to tell you about the very important merchandise we have on offer. If you're tired of looking vanilla, magnolia, the white crayon of the fashion world, then boy do we have some treats for you. Head over to our Teespring page. That's loungetrousers.com, and you can find t-shirts, hoodies, joggers, or as we call them over here, lounge trousers. Or why not grab a beverage in one of our absolutely stylish Triple P mugs? Or heck, rest your tired head on a Triple P pillow. Go on, treat yourself. Take it from me, Jensen Taylor. I would never lie.
I love it, man. I love it.
What the hell?
The local heartthrob bit. That's what got me. That's what got me. I mean, he's not wrong. Right?
He's not. It's true. He's like the cover of the old day Tiger Beat magazines on,
I think there's an opportunity for Jensen pinup posters now in the merch category.
Laying on a bearskin rug or something.
Yeah, like a calendar,
There you go.
Triple P calendar.
Got to make it happen now.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for episode 121. Aaron, thank you very much for jumping in with us. We had a good time.
Thanks for having me.
And want to thank, of course, our sponsors and our partners, all of our Patreons. And of course, we'll get into that at the end of the episode. But Micro World Games, Angel, thank you. Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive. Just appreciate the community and the support, and it makes everything that we do possible. Hopefully you enjoyed our episode. We will see you in a couple of weeks, and be well, clean those benches, get some workout, and hopefully post on the Plastic Posse group page.
One of the ways you can help support the Plastic Posse is become a member of the Plastic Posse Outriders. If you want to become a Plastic Posse Outrider, it's easy. You can even do it wearing your world-famous lounge trousers that Jensen will model for you someday. Just go to the Patreon page at patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast and set up a recurring donation there. These contributions help offset costs, and we can't thank you enough. There are 3 different tiers, starting at just $1 a month, and there are great benefits with each of them, including early access to podcasts, premium access to the hosts, a chance to appear on the podcast, and exclusive Triple P content and merch. So hope to see you at a show, and you can join us at one of our special social events. With that, I'll turn it over to Aaron to walk through who the deputy marshals are.
Okay. I knew this was going to happen to me sooner or later if I was on. So let's see if I can do this. Let's recognize our amazing deputy marshals. These loyal contributors support what the posse does, and we genuinely appreciate each of you. Ryan Smith, Alamo Squadron Model Fiesta, Curtis Towers, Winston Gold, The Quiet Corner Modeler, Daryl Miller, Rob Booth, David Clark, Richard Lane, Robbie Knopfs, Wesley Becker, Eric Daglish, David Wassel, Matt Tupman, Glenn Fellman, Patrick Neff, Zach Pease, Brett Marquette. Look, this is one of those things that I figured if I screw it up enough, they won't make me do it again. Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Brian Clark, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Craig Jarbo, Red Beach One Studios, James Rondo, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric, John Hale, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Paul Burdett, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Ken Childress, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, the voice of Bob, Jeremy Diamond, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Loverwell, Andrew Callis, Ethan Eidenmill, Steve Baker, Patrick Brown, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogel, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Wakala, John Everett, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Jeremy Elliott, previously mediocre middle-aged modeler, Dan Knopfel, and JC Osborne. And listeners, there was definitely attempts to sabotage me in reading that, some of which probably unknowingly passed, but some of which I was able to spare you from. So yeah, I feel like I was just hazed.
Hazing rituals for sure.
I feel like I was just hazed.
Yes.
I would like to talk to HR.
All right, let's not forget our posse foreman. This crew is made up of posse outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand, and we also want to thank them for their support. We've got Tyler, Aussie Modeler, Graham, Keith, Dwayne, AK Armor in the flesh, Bill, JAK, Casey, Therese, Raphael, Russ, Stefan, Mikkel, Labar, Gil, Mike, Michael, Steve, Scott, Emery, the Krieger, William, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhop Models, G. Baker, Tom Stepp, Crazy Loca, Len, Cliff, Damian, Cody, Nukeman, Mike, Paul, and we all know, we wish we knew the answer to the question, what is the deal with iBones Models? Good luck on your move, my friend. Hope everything's going smooth. Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Jamie, MD Models, Papa Steve Munsell, JB, Eric, Matthew, and David.
And of course, our $1 and free Posse Outriders, like our latest additions, Robert Lukes and Fly Casual Modeler. Thanks, guys.